Just about set to go. 12th ranked Illinois. They come in 8-1, 5-1 in the conference against Ohio State, 6-3, 4-2 in the conference. A spectacular day for mid-November. 56 degrees, sunny skies, and we are just about set to go. Illinois won the toss. They have deferred. Ohio State will receive. And that means we will get our first look at quarterback Scott McMullen very shortly. Steve Fitz is put it on a tee. Maurice Hall and Bam Childress are back to receive for Ohio State. Brandon Bam Childress, the redshirt freshman, really broke one a week ago. And Illinois had some special teams problems, allowing a kick return and a punt return for touchdowns a week ago against Penn State. There will be no return this time as Fitz puts it out of the end zone. 1st and 10 from the 20. Say hi to Scott McMullen. The sophomore quarterback has played in 4 games this season. The last time he threw a pass in a game 1 month ago in the 4th quarter against San Diego State. And the rest of our BestBuy.com starting lineups.
Well, of course, one of the things here is the studs on the outside, Vance and Jenkins, are going to have to make big plays. Take a look, if you want, to where the ball is going to follow. The ball is going to follow number 39, Jamar Martin, arguably the best fullback in the United States.
On 1st and 10, Scott McMullen has thrown 8 passes on the season, completing 2 of them for 43 yards. He's been picked off 1 time. He didn't have butterflies right now. He's not human. 3 seconds left to get it off, and they do. And McMullen comes out throwing down the sideline, and it's juggled and dropped. Was going for Chris Gamble. Bobby Jackson had the coverage. And the guys that will be protecting Scott McMullen, an awful lot of pressure on this unit. A unit certainly that can handle it for Ohio State. Tyson Walter making his 47th consecutive start.
And look for a lot of stunts in the defensive line, people moving around. 18 different people, Steve, 18 different people have had sacks for the Illini this season.
Talk about spreading the wealth. How about the play call, Todd, on 1st and 10?
I like it. You heard the reaction of the crowd. They liked it too.
McMullen here with 3 receivers. He'll put it on the ground to Jonathan Wells, and Jerry Schumacher from that middle linebacking spot of Illinois made the stop. We'll be saying that an awful lot. Schumacher leads the team in tackles.
In the secondary, arguably the strength of the team. You've got Morton with 2 TD interception returns. Abdullah, who had arguably the biggest play of the season when they stuffed him against Purdue on a goal line stand.
All right, 3rd and 7, exactly what McMullen and Ohio State trying to avoid all afternoon. And Jenkins in motion near side. And the righty passer threw it just a bit behind Jenkins. It'll go incomplete. 3 and out for Ohio State and McMullen.
And if Christian Morton wasn't with the idea of trying to hit somebody, he would have had his 3rd touchdown. The ball was there for the taking, but he was looking at the receiver. And of course, Steve, right there, that pass is indicative of not getting the sync with the starting receivers that obviously the starting quarterback would.
Andy Groom, 2nd leading punter in the nation, averaging 46.7 yards. He's never been more important than he will be today, likely. And it's blocked! There it is! Blocked and picked up by Illinois in the end zone. Jamal Clark off the blocked punt.
Steve, one of the things that I saw early on is I'm not sure that Andy Groom stood at the right distance. He looked a little bit short. Andy Groom looked like he was only about 12 yards from the line of scrimmage. Standard is somewhere between 13 and 15. He looked a little bit close. Here's the snap of the ball. Now take a look where he ends up. He ends up kicking the ball right just inside of about 7 yards.
Like Dwayne Smith came through to block it for Illinois. Took exactly 1 minute for Illinois to score. The special teams have been so important in terms of blocks. And here's Peter Christofolatos to try to silence this crowd even more than they've already been. A flag on the play on the extra point. Looks like Derek Ross might have bumped into Christofolatos. 7-0 Illinois.
Here's the end zone, and where is he standing? Now he has to come to the side, and then he begins his 3rd step. You can't do that. You just don't have time to do that. okay? When he goes to the side, he already has to be into his first step. Instead, he takes that extra third step, and the result, watch. Now, 1, 2, 3. That necessitates the block. As soon as that happens, he has to go with 2 steps when the ball is off to the side.
Todd, interesting, in the Ohio State notes next to Groom's name, it clearly says he's a one-step punter.
Certainly not in that case, Steve. He took the 3 steps, took too long. And again, you know, you're a punter. You want to get your average. You want to take your time. But, boy, that was a costly one.
That is
huge
the first time, sorry, Todd, first time Groom has had a kick blocked this season. For Dwayne Smith of Illinois, it's his 2nd punt block of the season. There was already a pall cast, really, all throughout Columbus based on what has happened to Steve Belisario over the last 30 hours or so. But feel it now.
Certainly not. No, not in terms of special teams. And again, Andy Groom, as you pointed out, 2nd in the nation. Now, how far away is he right here? Okay, he's standing. He's actually okay. He's about 14 yards. But, Steve, it was that extra step. That extra step that enabled Illinois to come in and make the block.
Here's Steve Fitz to do it again. And it's a short kick, and it's taken by Van Childress from the 15. Childress will cut it to the outside, and Childress will be dropped on a good special teams tackle.
That was Jamal Clark, the same guy that just got the touchdown.
He's had a pretty active game.
Great play.
18-yard return on the kick. Jamal Clark, already a couple of special plays. If you look at the game notes, Illinois 8-1 for the first time since 1983. And most surprising, how about the success they've had recently in Columbus?
Really impressive, as you can see over the last 2 years ago, they came in and whacked them pretty good. 5 of the last 7, very impressive.
So, Todd, just about the worst possible start for Scott McMullen. They go 3 and out, and now he already finds himself trailing 7-0. Although he has the benefit of good field position to start this series. Handing it off, and a big run by Jonathan Wells. Cutting it out to the right, he's got a blocker in front of him, the 40 to 35. How about the moves by Wells? And he's inside the 15, Eugene Wilson, with a touchdown-saving tackle.
6'1", 230 pounds. You usually don't think he's going to have those kind of feet. Jonathan Wells has a reputation for some speed, but not necessarily the sweet feet. Does a great job at the point of attack of cutting back against the grain. There are a lot of white shirts. Now watch this. He's able to avoid a couple of tackles. Jackson on a missed tackle. Abdullah on a missed tackle. Now watch him turn people completely around. Whoops. Whoop, 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 whoop. Has kind of a Three Stooges feel to it, but again, give credit. Young man was able to hold him up until Eugene Wilson could make a touchdown-saving tackle.
59 yards for Wells. He did not start 1 week ago. Apparently some disciplinary problem inside the team. Came on for the 3rd series. He's out of the game now, so Lydell Ross can check in and carry the football. He's stopped by Jerry Schumacher.
Well, certainly that's what the doctor ordered, Steve, because you pointed out blocked field goal, or rather blocked punt for the touchdown. 3 and out. They needed something to get the crowd back in it and get themselves energized. And 59-yard run will certainly do that.
How important, Todd, just for McMullen to even complete a screen here or something?
Well, see, in this situation now, you're in the red zone. He's going to have to make some sort of play. Now, if he'd had a 60-yard touchdown, we'd have those 4 digits up there. 60-yard run, rather. Come on, Wells, help us out.
Here we go, 2nd and 8 again. The play clock all the way down. Here's McMullen in some trouble, being chased. Throws, and he was just throwing it away. Lydell Ross was the intended target. Terrell Washington gave him the pressure, and we sent it back to Bill Pito.
All right, Steve, a week ago, Boston College gave Miami fits. Today, BC taking on Rutgers. Brian St. Pierre. Keith Hemmings on the loose, 20, 10, and a touchdown for BC, the early lead, 7-0, first quarter activity.
All right, Bill, thanks. Bill Pito, Sports Center in game, scores and highlights throughout the afternoon. Here's 3rd down and 8. Again, the play clock has gone down to 3 and 4 seconds, almost every snap. You see it beneath the game clock. Next to 3rd and 8. That time with 6 seconds he gets the snap. Here's McMullen throwing it, so got it, touchdown! Chris Vance, touchdown! 1-yard scoring strike. McMullen to Vance. That'll give him a shot of confidence. And we're in a 1-point game as Mike Nugent comes on for the extra point. Nugent boots it through.
Well, Steve, you talk about the confidence that he needed and how much better could it have been in this situation. Third down play. Geez, the youngster, can he convert? Can he come up with the goods? Can he get a touchdown? Can he tie the score? The answers to all the above are yes.
Just underway from Ohio Stadium, Scott McMullen talking upstairs with the assistant coaches after the touchdown drive. And guys, remember, before the game, we talked with Jim Tressel about how his quarterback would respond. The touchdown pass to Chris Vance shows very well. Now, all the coaches I talked to describe Scott McMullen as very soft-spoken, very laid back. They weren't sure how he'd come out in terms of being a big leader, really outgoing and outspoken. In the huddle, doesn't have the presence Steve Belisari does. On the sideline, doesn't look like he's interacting too much with teammates yet, but it's a great start for McMullen today.
All right, Dave, certainly aided by the Wells run for 59 yards. Gave him an awful lot of breathing room on the field as Josh Houston is set to kick it away. Eugene Wilson has it from the 2 for Illinois. Wilson looking for a seam, won't get out to the 20-yard line. And we're set for the Illini. We've had 2 touchdowns in the game, and yet Illinois has not run a play. And there's their senior quarterback, the 4-year starter, Kurt Kittner. And the rest of our BestBuy.com starting lineups.
Big question today with the absence of Antonio Harris and his broken leg as to whether or not Rocky Harvey and Kerry Davis can carry the load in the running game today for the Fighting Illini.
First down and 10, and there is the senior, Kurt Kittner. Kittner has struggled in the early parts of the last couple of games. They hand it off on the reverse to Brandon Lloyd, their superstar playmaker. He's the guy they want to get the football to anyway. C. Grant made the stop. And a look at the Illinois offensive line. It's a strong one led by Luke Butkus in the middle. Coaches tell us he had the correct line call all 80 offensive snaps a week ago.
Defensive line for Ohio State was impressive last week against Purdue, particularly in creating 2 safeties.
On second down and 3. Send Walter Young in motion. Here's Kittner to throw for the first time today. Would have been a nice catch, but it goes off the hands of Aaron Moorhead. Linebackers for Ohio State, led by Joe Cooper. In terms of leadership, he is a 2-time captain, just like Steve Belisari. The defense looks to Cooper.
And of course, in the secondary, you got the classic matchup today. Derek Ross, who leads the Big Ten in interceptions, matched up against Brandon Lloyd, one of the most exciting receivers in the nation.
Mike Doss put a heavy lick on Kittner a season ago. That's something we might revisit later on. It's certainly been a subject of conversation this week. Here's Kittner to throw. And he's drilled, taken down by Mike Collins, the senior from Newark, Ohio, on a sack.
That was a case of offensive line going with an is it you, is it me protection. It's a 3-step drop, and there was a miscommunication between the offensive lineman that just afforded Collins a free rein. The right tackle moves out, the right guard goes in, and as a result, it's a freeway to the quarterback. Take a look at that gap. Holy cow, look at this. Am I excited? Thanks so much.
The only married Buckeye player comes up with the sack. Chris Vance looking to return the punt from the 35, trying to get to midfield, and he was slammed back hard. We'll see where they spot it. Look like they spotted out at about the 46-yard line.
Steve, one of the things that we've noticed that is in big games that we've had the opportunity, we've noticed that sometimes it's special teams guys who have been returning the punts. Instead, over the last couple of games, you notice star receivers are now back to return the punts simply because of the fact that the magnitude of these games are just too much.
ESPN's presentation of college football is brought to you by Chevy Trucks, the most dependable, longest-lasting trucks on the road. And by Best Buy. For the latest technology, turn on the fun at Best Buy.
Back at Ohio Stadium here in Columbus, Ohio. What a start to this one. 7-all, the Fighting Illini and the Buckeyes. First down and 10. Ohio State will start at their own 46. Excellent field position for Scott McMullen. Threw the touchdown pass earlier, and he's going up top again. Down the sideline and threw it over the wrong shoulder of Michael Jenkins, his intended target. We're set for an update elsewhere in the Big Ten today, developing situations with Bill Pito.
All right, Steve, indeed. Indiana trying to make it 3 wins in a row in the conference for the first time since '93. Touchdown, Jeremy Johnson, and Indiana leads Penn State 7-zip. Elsewhere, Northwestern non-conference at home against Bowling Green, leading it 7-0. That game also in quarter number 1.
All right, Bill, thanks. Northwestern will have a short week. Thursday, they'll be in Champaign to take on the Fighting Illini. For Illinois, potentially for the Big Ten title, depending upon what happens elsewhere today and tonight. Hand off to Jonathan Wells, and he moves out to midfield, out to the 50. Muhammad Abdullah makes the stop.
Something we talked about at the top of the show, Steve, that seems to be asserting itself early is that the offensive line for Ohio State is going to have to rise to the occasion. That's what Jim Bowman, offensive coordinator, told us yesterday. Adrian Clark, Alex Stepanovich, LaCharles Bentley, Tyson Walter, Shane Olivier. Up to this point, they've protected McMullen and, of course, created that chasm that enabled Wells to get that 59-yard run even.
Congratulations to Jonathan Wells. Goes over the 1,000-yard mark on the season. Already over 2,000 for his career. Here's McMullen in some trouble, and he'll throw it away. Sophomore's done that a couple of times, showing some veteran poise.
Great coverage downfield on the part of Eugene Wilson. Chris Vance, who has been a bugaboo for so many over the last couple of weeks, making the outstanding plays, getting 100-yard games, but Eugene Wilson was with him stride for stride.
Andy Groom comes on, and we'll watch a little closer. Eugene Wilson is back deep for Illinois. Todd, does he look like he's back at the right spot?
He's 13 yards. Let's take a look at the steps now.
High snap for Groom. Also, he runs up the middle. Groom's got the first down and more. Here's Andy Groom, the punter. He's inside the 25. Off the high snap, it actually a benefit. 27-yard gain by Groom.
Take a look at the line, Steve. This is a play. The time to have a fake punt is when you're at midfield or thereabouts. Take a look at the line play and watch the blocking to the side. Look at Cooper now, and he takes off downfield because he knows that it's a planned play. It was a design play. It could have been screwed up except for the fact that Corey Flisowski is the one who could not bring him down. Now, the snap, I don't think, was supposed to be this high. He fakes the punt, now takes up the middle, and as we pointed out, he breaks the one tackle, and the result is a huge play for the Buckeyes.
So McMullen gets the football back, the quarterback, and he'll put it on the ground. To Jonathan Wells, and he's making some people miss. He's down to the 15. Robbie Long made the stop. McMullen passing today is just 1 for 6. But it's the one. It was a 10-yard touchdown pass.
Well, of course, those are 2 huge runs, and I think it speaks a lot about Jim Tressel and the staff coming into this game. You hear the phrase all the time, pulling out all the stops. Well, with a completely inexperienced quarterback, that's exactly what they're going to have to do to win the game today.
McMullen brings him up. 2 receivers out to the right on 2nd down and short. And they'll give it to Wells again. And the Ohio State offensive line doing a good job picking holes. It's a first down for Wells. Bobby Jackson came up to make the stop, and set for another update with Bill Pito.
All right, Steve, earlier we showed you Brian St. Pierre with a touchdown pass, and he does it again against Rutgers. Dedrick DeWalt, 4 yards and a touchdown. All BC 14-0 now in quarter number 1. Georgia Tech, the horrific, heartbreaking 39-38 loss in Virginia last week. Right now leading Wake by 4.
All right, Bill, thank you. The Buckeyes, 1st and 10. On the 10-yard line of the Fighting Illini, a 7-all game. We approach the midway point of quarter number 1. Why not? Give it right back to Wells, and he bangs his way down to the 5-yard line. Bobby Jackson came up to hit him again. Wells so far, 6 carries for 85 yards. But Jonathan Wells looked like he's going for 4 consecutive 100-yard runs.
Take a look at Tyson Walter and Clark at the point of attack, and I'm talking about the left side of the offensive line. Now watch when he cuts back. Look at all the grass that he has. People have been pushed off the line that enables Wells, even though that's not the hole that he needs to go to. He cuts back and gets considerable yardage. Tyson Walter, an outstanding offensive tackle that Jim Bowman told us, highly intelligent, somebody that will probably play at the next level.
Lydell Ross checks in to replace Wells, give him a breather. They'll stay with the running game. It's Ross up the middle, maybe a yard on the play. And I'll bring up a 3rd down and goal. Brandon Moore made the stop there.
Steve, if the offensive line is going to continue to be so assertive, it really isn't going to matter whether or not McMullen is 1 for 6 or whatever he is. Illinois is going to have to find itself with 8 and 9 in the box, and what that's going to afford McMullen is a lot of man-for-man coverage on the outside. I look for him to put it up here.
Since he threw the touchdown pass, I'm not sure we've mentioned the name Belisari, and that would be more the case throughout the afternoon. Wells and Martin are in the backfield. Vance in motion for the Buckeyes. They had some problems on a snap there. There's McMullen trying to step up, and he'll be slammed down at the 6 by Jerry Schumacher. Be a loss on that play.
Well, the one thing that was pointed out to us in all quarters was the fact that the one thing they do lose with Belisari and McMullen is mobility, that he is not a running quarterback. And when he got outside the pocket, he had no place to go. And again, the speed of the Illini defense closed in on him.
So Mike Nugent will come on to attempt a field goal. A 23-yard field goal attempt. Try to give Ohio State the lead. Field goals have been a problem for the Buckeyes this season. Well, not so much lately. It was the first half of the season for sure. The combination of Josh Houston and Mike Nugent. And Nugent this time puts it through. 6:43 left. And Scott McMullen, the Buckeyes lead. Down to the field, Dave.
All right, Steve, a lot of drama in the stands here from Ron and Judy McMullen, Scott McMullen's parents. Judy, we'll start with you. The last 24 hours have been pretty crazy, I'm sure. What was your reaction to the news that Steve Belisari was suspended? How are you feeling now that the game has started?
Well, it was a sad situation. You're sorry to hear something like that happen. We were glad that Scotty was getting a chance, but we just wish that he'd had a little more experience before he got thrown into the Wolves. But he'll be fine, starting out good, and he's got a lot of support from friends and family, and he'll be fine.
Ron, you and Scott had a chance to talk last night. Father to son, what was your advice?
Well, I started to give him advice, and he interrupted me and told me he was just fine. He said everything will be fine. I said, okay, so I didn't give him any more advice. But he handles pressure pretty well. I was kind of concerned the first couple passes there, but it looks like he's settled down now.
Steve, Ron and Scott used to come here when Scott was just a young guy, 35 minutes away from Granville, Ohio, to watch the Buckeyes play in this very stadium. Now he's starting for his hometown favorite school.
All right, Dave, good job. And now as the starting quarterback, his parents are in the front row.
Let me tell you something. As the father of a college football player, here was my advice if I would have been the quarterback. Son, play your butt off. That's my advice.
I wonder if the last home game the McMullens had those seats. That's my question.
Yeah.
As the starting quarterback, your parents get to sit in the front row. Must be in the front row. Right. Good job, Dave. Josh Houston will kick it away. And the kick goes out of bounds, and that's the reason for the flag, and we'll sort it out. I'll tell you what you get from his parents, though. If McMullen is anything like his parents in terms of personality, you see laid back,
yep,
cool, calm, confident. No problem. Yep. That's if he takes after mom and dad. We're getting ready to check in for an update.
Yeah.
Be a 1st and 10. And now we're set for Bill Pito on the update. Bill.
Steve, Georgia Tech against Wake Forest. Wake Forest needing a win to become bowl eligible. George Godsey here for the Yellow Jackets. Will Heller, 6 yards and a touchdown. Yellow Jackets have 14-3.
All right, Dave. Bill. Carey Davis, his first carry of the afternoon. And again, we expect to see a lot of Davis and Rocky Harvey. In recent weeks, they've been going with really a 3 running back rotation, but no Antonio Harris there. Top running back, broken wrist a week ago.
But I think we're going to see a lot more of Davis at the tailback for the reason that he's a 220-pounder. Harvey is short of 190 pounds. They want to have a power running game, and Davis is the one to provide that.
Here's Kittner to throw, and Kittner completing to Walter Young. A 10-yard gain and a first down for Illinois. Richard McNutt made the stop.
And again, the rhythm that Kittner has to get early on. Steve, the last couple of weeks, he has been atrocious in the first half. We had a game, Purdue, a couple of weeks ago when he was, 1 for 4 and 3 interceptions, for goodness sake.
Last couple games, Todd, in the first half, 7 of 20 and 2 picks, 9 of 21 for 3 picks. The last 2 first halves he's played in. On the ground to Carey Davis. Again, even though he's traditionally a fullback, Davis, they've been going with a 1-back offense for Illinois, and Davis is the back right now. Coming up, 3:30 Eastern later on today. It is rivalry week all over the country. How about this little dandy? Virginia Tech and Virginia. College football, 3:30 p.m. Eastern today, right here on ESPN.
That's going to be a good ball game. That's a no-brainer. Don't just hand it to Virginia Tech just yet.
2nd down and 4. Here's Kittner now. Under pressure up the middle, and he's going to go down. Tim Anderson takes him down on the sack.
Coming into this game, Steve, Ohio State only had 19 sacks, and that's not really a lot. But early on here in the first quarter, they've already had 2. Tim Anderson does a great job getting past Kulaga with the arm underneath. Powerful hands, and of course, remember, this is a state wrestling champion. You know that once you're in his hands, you're going down.
And most impressive, Todd, is the fact that for Illinois, they don't give up sacks. They don't allow Kittner to be touched often. He's been sacked just 9 times, second fewest in the Big Ten. That's the 10th time this season now. Loss of 9. This is 3rd and 13.
Be a free play here.
Flags down. Pass to Kerry Davis out of the backfield. And Davis making some people miss. He's out to the 35. Would be enough for the first down. Donnie Nicky brought him down. Got 16 on the play, but we'll see without the flag.
Oh, the flag's going to be offsides. They're going to refuse it. But I tell you what, Kerry Davis, what a great call by Ron Turner with the screen pass out to the left. They'll refuse that play, and they'll certainly take that. Great blocking downfield. Lead block.
Offsides on the defense. Penalty declined. First down.
Steve, we're talking about maybe the beginning of a little stardom here for Kerry Davis. Coming into the game, he had 31 catches, and that's really what he had been known for. He ran, but sparingly. Now forced to be the main guy. He's shown early on.
Rushed 7 times a week ago. Caught the ball 4 times. And again, we'll have to pick up some yellow hankies before we get off the next play.
Sideline warning, I bet.
Illinois, they're first.
Todd, I got to ask you about it. That's 3 consecutive weeks. We've seen a sideline warning.
Well, of course, you know what? They know this is nationally televised. Come on. They
Hi, Mom. Send money on the sideline.
Oh, man. You're so excited in a game of this magnitude. I mean, you're not looking down at your feet as to whether or not you're behind the line. Come on.
And last year, the halo penalty. This year, sideline warnings.
That's it.
Again, it's Davis. Tim Cheatwood makes the stop. Rutgers' woes continue. Here's Bill Pito.
Issues indeed, Steve. Brian St. Pierre, a huge first quarter for Boston College. This is 3rd touchdown pass of the quarter. Jamal Burke, and it's 21-0. Look at what's going on with Rutgers. 0-6 coming into today. Points against, though, in the Big East. Look at that. That includes today.
Bill, thanks on 2nd and 7. Handoff to Davis. Getting some of the tough yards. Tim Cheatwood again makes the stop.
Kurt Kittner had to make kind of an athletic play to get Davis the ball. They were not in sync there, and that could have been a fumble. That's the veteran Kittner who's able to get Davis the ball and cut back against the grain. Watch this right here. Oh, I'm not quite there. Oh, goodness. And as I say, Davis does a nice job cutting against the grain. Mike Doss drops him, but 3rd and short.
The averages some 5 yards per carry. He's right there today. 4 carries for 21 yards. This is his 5th carry of the game. Looks like he ran into his own guys there. And Joe Cooper for Ohio State, the red shirt there, to make the stop.
Steve, when you've been successful with the cutback so many times, you just assume that's what you're going to continue to do. I think they're going to be a little bit short. But given the fact that I don't know if he has as much confidence as Gottman as he does in Christopher Lakos, I think they might go for it here.
Kurt Kittner talking it over with Turner, and he heads back on the field. 4th down and inches. The ball at the 25.5. They got to get to the 25. 10 of 13 on the season in 4th down conversions. That's how good the Illini have been in this spot. The 2 running backs fumbled on the exchange and recovered by Mike Doss of Ohio State. Joe Cooper made the hit on Rocky Harvey. Mike Doss recovered the fumble. There is a flag down.
Sideline warning on Ohio State. Fumble is recovered by Ohio State. First down.
Steve, really the play, even though Cooper was in there, the play is made by the penetration of the defensive line. Watch in the middle. Actually, you're absolutely right, Steve. It was Cooper all the way. The defensive line penetrates, but Cooper jumps over the top, tapes on the fullback, strips him of the ball. That play had no chance. I was surprised, frankly, that they didn't just go with the quarterback sneak, because from my vantage point, it was a length of the ball. Don't forget that Joe Cooper captain as a junior, captain as a senior. And talking with the defensive coordinator, Mark D'Antonio, yesterday, he told us that Joe Cooper is the most competitive man he has ever been around, and certainly has done some great things here for the Buckeyes.
So on 1st down and 10 now for the Buckeyes off the turnover. They hand it off to Jonathan Wells. He's out to the 42. Muhammad Abdullah brought him down. So if Cooper is the leader of the Ohio State defense, on offense, they look to LaCharles Bentley. He talked about the 100-yard game by a running back. That's our stat. He said, hey, offensive linemen don't have real statistics like that. So when Wells goes over 100 yards for 3, or in this case 4 consecutive games, the offensive line led by Bentley, they take great pleasure in that.
Starts with the man over the middle, the man who's over the ball, the center, number 68.
Wells is 8 yards shy of 100 yards. Make that now 9. A loss on the play. Jerry Schumacher filled that hole very nicely. And down to Dave Ryan.
All right, guys, last night in team meetings, Illinois defensive coordinator Mike Cassidy, the entire defensive staff emphasized that just because Steve Bellisari is out of the Buckeye lineup, there's no reason to be overconfident, no change to the game plan. They knew Ohio State was going to run 60% of the offensive snaps in this game today against the Illini. And the big key, stopping the run. But as you mentioned, Steve, big game so far, nearing 100 yards for Jonathan Wells. That game plan defensively not working for the Illini yet.
Here's McMullen in a 3rd and 5 situation. Now the Buckeyes are set. Ball spotted at the 40. You can see Bentley calling out the protection and changing some things. Here's McMullen as the protection starts to break down, and McMullen will go down as well. Muhammad Abdullah came there, leading the Illinois defenders on the sack. 35 seconds left in this 1st quarter. From sea to shining sea, the Goodyear blimps have been flying around America since 1925. Today, the Spirit of Goodyear, based in Akron, Ohio, is floating nearby, providing us those beautiful aerial views that you will see throughout the afternoon. Here's Andy Groom, set to punt it away. Had one blocked, then had a fake, ran up the middle. This one gets away, and it takes an Illinois bounce. With 9 seconds left in the quarter, it's a 39-yard punt by Groom, who's already had an adventurous day.
It really is, and you know, I think that bodes well for Illinois for this reason, and that is that Groom, as we pointed out coming in, was nearly 47 yards per average. But what's going to happen now is he's going to be struggling throughout the day, and he's going to shorten everything about his steps.
This is the 90th meeting all time in this series, Ohio State and Illinois. They met for the first time in 1902, and that was a scoreless tie. That will not be the case here today. 10-7 Buckeyes. Likely the final play of this 1st quarter. And it is complete to Walter Young. Finds a seam middle of the field. And here's Young across midfield. And he is brought down at the 44-yard line of Ohio State. Cortland Bullard brought him down. And how about that way to end quarter number 1 for Illinois? A tremendous start to this one. 2 teams that are already bowl eligible. But just any bowl, not good enough for either of these schools. Looking for the big ones. 2nd quarter's next. Second quarter, the Buckeyes leading the Fighting Illini 10-7, and that has to be music to the ears of those here in Columbus, Ohio, as we welcome you back. A picture-perfect college football Saturday. Not bad for the 17th of November. Now, if on December 17th we're still in this kind of weather, now we really have something. Steve Levy, Todd Christensen, Dave Ryan. Glad you could be with us in Columbus, Ohio, this pivotal game in the Big Ten. Davis, the fullback, in motion. It's play action for Kurt Kittner. Down the middle of the field, it's a jump ball, it's an interception. Donnie Nicky racing back the other way. Nicky across the 40, won't get to midfield. Davis forced him out of bounds. Donnie Nicky comes up with the interception. He's got picks in consecutive games now.
And Ron Turner is trying to explain to him, look, you've got to see the free safety. You go with the misdirection, you've got plenty of time to survey downfield. What's going to happen? Misdirection comes here. He steps up in the pocket, he's got plenty of time. But here's Nicky playing center field, who sees him the entire time. You have to say, you don't know what Kittner was seeing, only assuming that maybe somebody could outrun him, because there's Nicky just waiting. It's an absolute gift gift interception for Nicky, only his second of the season, but he has a nice run back and sets up the Buckeyes in very good field position, just short of midfield.
Todd, Nicky had a nice run back last week, had his first interception of the year against Purdue, returned it 42 yards. This one, he picks off and returns 37 yards.
Two-time All-Big Ten academic.
And so they put the football back in the hands of Scott McMullen on first down and 10 from their own 46. Out of the eye, give it to the second man through, and that's Jonathan Wells. And he is just across midfield. Bobby Jackson making yet another tackle. As we look back, the ESPN game track. McMullen and Ohio State got off to a bit of a slow start. Went 3 and out, tried to punt. Andy Groom had his punt blocked. Dwayne Smith blocked it and it led to a touchdown.
But then again, they were able to pull off the fake punt. Groom atones for that with a nice run that sets up the touchdown to Vance. And that's where we are right now, 10-7.
You're only going to have one completion at that time. Make it be for 6. And McMullen did. Here's McMullen, quick drop and throwing. Chris Vance was the intended target. Again, appeared to be some miscommunication, as you would expect. No miscommunication when it comes to sending it back to Bill Peter.
All right, Steve, well done. Matt Seneca in there for the injured Zach Mills. And Seneca here. Tony Johnson, watch this catch. All the makings. A couple of plays later, Seneca would run it in himself, 7-7 against Indiana and Northwestern. Non-conference today at home, leading Bowling Green 14-7, still in the first quarter.
Third down and 6. Out of the eye, 3 receivers. Is Scott McMullen. Sent Gamble in motion near side.
Free safety blitz, they picked it up.
McMullen dumped it off to Michael Jenkins. He was belted just as he got the football, and he is short of the first down. Eugene Wilson put the lick on him.
Abdullah, number 7, comes flying from a free safety position. Watch coming almost right into the quarterback's lap, but they're able to pick it up. Now he scrambles out a little bit, is able to get Jenkins the ball, but that's a great open field tackle on the part of Wilson to drop him short. And really, Steve, I don't think there's a decision here. You don't want to get Illinois back in the game. Let Groom come in, punt the ball down the field, pin them down inside the 20.
We'll step out. Ohio State, they want to talk it over. They'll use their first timeout. 13:33 to play here in the first half. Buckeyes by 3.
ESPN's presentation of college football is brought to you by Hyundai. For the freedom of America's best warranty, the Hyundai Advantage is standard equipment.
One of the reasons why they're debating about going for it on 4th down is because of an extremely generous spot. Take a look at the tackle and where he ends up. We won't get a chance to see it, but he was tackled at the 46, and they got the mark at the 45.
Here's McMullen. 4th and 1. Handoff, Jonathan Wells, first down, and plenty more. And a great tackle by Eugene Wilson prevents Wells from taking it to the house. It's a gain of 19. They only needed 1.
Well, of course, the argument there would be 4th and 2 versus 4th and 1. What difference does it make because of the run by Wells, who now, Steve, is already over 100 yards for the game here with 13:26 remaining in the first half. But here's what I was talking about. The ball is set at the 45-yard line. Watch the tackle and where it's made, where Jenkins ends up. So he's going to get dropped by Wilson right down there at the 46-yard line. But the ball ended up being marked at the 45, and I think that precipitated the call to go for it by Ohio State.
McMullen pumps, throwing for Vance. Incomplete. The coverage on the play by Christian Morton, and the home folks looking for a flag. After we saw Vance a week ago, you almost got the sense he was going to come down with that football.
But again, give Morton credit. He's doing a good job. Now as he attacks the ball right at the last minute, now watch him turn and take a look. And in turning to take a look, you can't call interference in that play. And of course, don't forget Vance here putting on just, I play the position, putting on a little bit of an act.
Vance made 2 spectacular one-handed grabs a week ago, 1 for a touchdown. Couldn't come up with that one. Here's 2nd down and 10 after the incompletion. McMullen to put it up again. Throws, and it is caught. Vance hung on, and a great tackle by Eugene Wilson. Presents presentation of college football is brought to you by Hyundai. For the freedom of America's best warranty, the Hyundai Advantage is standard equipment. The quarterback put him in a bad situation. Wilson pounding on Vance.
Well, Vance continues to impress with his ability. This ball is extremely high, great vertical, as he's able to come with that ball. With more on Vance, let's go down to Rhino.
All right, thanks a lot. You guys said they call him Spider-Man because he has such sticky hands. He's the president, as named by Jonathan Wells, the running back of the Sticky Hands Club. He's taken over and impeached Wells, he says. And one big reason, guys, huge hands for Chris Vance. Here are his gloves. Wow. Triple X.
Problems on the snap. McMullen, and it looks like he was able to recover his own fumble. That gives us a chance to check in with Bill Pito.
All right, Steve, a week ago, Clemson quarterback Woody Dantzler benched in the fourth quarter against Maryland, trying to bounce back today against South Carolina. Reese Curry has got it, and he is in there for a touchdown. They missed the extra point, 6-0. Elsewhere, Wake needs a win to become bowl eligible, trailing at home by 4 to the Yellow Jackets.
Mike Nugent comes on from 36 yards away, and it's no good.
So how costly then is that drop of the fumble? I mean, meaning that that's just, you know, normally it's costly, but on 3rd and 3 when they were being so effective there on 3rd and shorts, they just couldn't come up with it.
So the fumble hurts. The missed field goal keeps this a 10-7 game. Back in Columbus, the score remains 10-7 after the Nugent miss. So look at Jim Tressel. He's had some things he hadn't planned on dealing with over the last 24, 30 hours or so. Right now, he has to be enjoying the fact he has a 3-point lead. The Illini get it back and hand off to Rocky Harvey. Harvey's very close to a first down. They'll pick up a 2nd and short.
The other thing he has to enjoy, too, certainly because of the inexperienced quarterback, is the time of possession. Ohio State is tops in the Big Ten in that particular category, but it's almost 2-1 at the beginning of the series, Steve. Ohio State 12 minutes and 25 seconds, Illinois less than 6 minutes.
Todd, I think it's significant that Ohio State try to build up more of a lead here when Kittner and the Illini offense might be slightly off because they've been so good late in the football games. Handoff, Rocky Harvey across the 40 out to the 43-yard line. Joe Cooper makes the stop along with Donnie Mickey, and here's Bill Pito.
All right, Steve, Kentucky has lost 16 straight against Tennessee, but here Jared Lorenzen, the big quarterback, Tommy Cook, touchdown. Wildcats, the early lead, 7-zip. If Harvard wins today, they will complete an undefeated season for the first time since 1913. They lead Yale 8-7 in quarter number 1.
All right, Bill, thanks. Keep us posted. Rocky Harvey out of the eye with Carey Davis. Harvey has gains of 9 and 14 yards the last couple of carries. And another good run by Harvey. He's out to midfield, out to the 50-yard line.
Well, let's again give credit where credit is due. We talked about the offensive line for Ohio State, but certainly the offensive line for the Illini seem to be moving some people off. We mentioned Jake Kulagi. You're talking about Luke Butkus, who has over 60 pancake blocks on the season. Tony Pashos, right tackle, has been outstanding. And Sean Boobin has been taking on some of the best pass rushers in the Big Ten.
On 2nd down and short, inside handoff to Carey Davis. Maybe gets back to the line of scrimmage. Primetime college football for you tonight, 7:45 Eastern here on ESPN. It's an ACC matchup. The Terps look to claim their first ACC title since 1985 and can clinch a BCS bowl bid in the process. That's tonight, 7:45 Eastern, as they take on North Carolina State.
Don't forget, North Carolina State has that gunslinger in Phil Rivers. That should be an exciting game.
3rd down and 2. Just across midfield. Single setback is Davis, and he's the ball carrier, and he's got the first down. And loose football, and I think the official's going to say he was down, and it will not be a fumble. Joe Cooper came on. Let's put another hit on him, and looks like lost the football and his helmet.
I was going to say they both came off seemingly at the same time, but it shows his courage with the bare head. He's still able to stick his head in there and try and get the ball just in case. Joe Cooper right there, right at the very end. He's down clearly, but the ball bounces loose, and Davis isn't going to take any chances. Got to straighten the do-rag, too, to get over the rows as he comes to the sidelines to get his cloth repaired.
1st and 10 now. Here's Kittner throwing and completing to Brandon Lloyd, who was down when he caught the ball. Didn't even have to be touched. We sent it back to Bill Pito.
All right, Steve, Antoine Randall L. more rushing yards than any college football quarterback ever. And look at the moves there. What a cut to go up the middle and put Indiana up over Penn State 14-7. Northwestern now leads Bowling Green 21-7.
Bill, thanks. Back to action. And a handoff to Rocky Harvey. Mike Collins made the stop. For Lloyd, Todd, that was his first reception of the afternoon. They got it to him on the reverse earlier, but he's a guy that want to put the ball in his hands.
Certainly do. They got to get number 6 the ball because he is the key. It's interesting that for the first 8 games of the season, they did just that. Last week, he only had the 1 reception. But again, you know, he tilts the field. He creates some double teams. He creates openings for other people. It's not always just about the numbers.
Interesting. It's the second time this season he's only had 1 catch. Illinois won both of those games. Here's Kittner now. Under pressure, there's a flag down. Kittner throwing, and just behind Lloyd, who was cutting across the middle. But again, there's a flag down on the play.
And the incompletion here is going to force Ohio State to be able to refuse the holding penalty. Although, as I say that, you often say to yourself here at the 34.5-yard line, maybe this is a situation where Illinois is saying that they go for it. But then again, if you're Jim Tressel, do you want to give Kittner another down?
Todd, something else you really noted, Kittner in the passing offense, they really look out of sync. And whatever that bugaboo has been about the first half, the last couple of weeks, it's carried over here.
On the offense, penalty is declined. 4th down.
Brings up the 4th down.
And so Illinois is not going to take any chances, and they are going to punt. You see the top of the screen, that was pretty obvious on the part of Pashos. And right there, that's not a very difficult throw right there to get the ball to the man right there in the middle of the field. But as you pointed out, the woes for Kittner in the first half continue.
Steve Fitz, the 8th best punter, and he's going to take off on a shovel pass.
Wow.
You can fake punt. You can fake punt too. Dwayne Smith, who earlier had blocked the punt that led to the touchdown, is on the receiving end of the shovel pass. There is a flag down.
It's going to be interesting to see if they have, yep. And how costly. They have enough people on the line of scrimmage, and does anybody move? It doesn't appear that anybody moves, but maybe they didn't have 7 men on the line of scrimmage. There's the shovel pass. Nice play. He gets tackled from behind. They have the first down, but evidently they didn't have enough people on the line of scrimmage, is my guess.
Illegal formation. 6 men on the line of scrimmage on the offense. Penalty is accepted. 5 yards, 4th down.
Nullifying an 8-yard gain, most importantly the first down. Now, if you really want the essence of surprise, how about faking it twice in a row?
I was thinking the exact same thing. Boy, that would show some courage.
Does anybody ever fake it twice in a row? Well, let's watch. And here's Fitz, and he's putting the foot into it. And it'll be dropped after it takes an Illinois bounce down to the 4-yard line. That was the first penalty of the game for either team, and it is rather costly. Kurt Kittner struggling here in the first half, just like he has in recent weeks. But keep in mind, in recent weeks, Kurt Kittner has rallied the Illini back to victory each time. Stick around. Back in Columbus, Ohio State, the 10-7 lead. 7:49 to play here in this first half. Last year, Ohio State beat Illinois 24-21 in Champaign. Dan Stultz with 4 field goals, including the game winner with no time left.
And see, that's another part of the game that certainly has to be problematic. Now, with the field goal, the 1 made and the 1 missed, now they're 9 for 21. That just isn't cutting it.
And here is McMullen in the shadows of his own goalpost, and the handoff to Jonathan Wells. Jerry Schumacher made the stop. Jim Tressel told us earlier in the season when talking about his place-kicking woes, really anything from 42 and in, you got to make almost every time, and then get your share of those beyond 42. And that has been a problem throughout the season for Ohio State. Second down and 7. A single setback. Wells, and they give it to him. And he is taken down on the backfield by Jerry Schumacher. Week in, week out, Schumacher continues to make seems like every single play. That's his 5th stop already today.
91 tackles coming into this game. Steve, how many times do you have somebody that leads the team in tackles, tackles for loss, and sacks? 12 tackles for loss coming into this game and 5 sacks. That's a great open field tackle by number 42.
3rd down and 7. Ohio State so far today just 1 of 7 on 3rd down conversions. See if the Illini bring some pressure. And they do. Here's McMullen with plenty of time. Good protection, able to complete the pass to Michael Jenkins. First down for the Buckeyes. Christian Morton made the stop, but only after he had picked up the necessary yardage.
This is a poor job by the Illini in terms of coverage. And what I mean by that, this is only a 2-man route. Jamar Martin is the man who's able to pick up Myers from the outside. As you pointed out, Steve, plenty of time for McMullen to deliver the ball right on the money to Jenkins on the dig route. 2 tight ends are in. You have max protection. When you only have two people in the pattern, that should be easily covered.
Lydell Ross is now in the backfield for the Buckeyes. He had a 100-yard game earlier this season. He pounds it across the 30 to the 31. Gain of 4 on the play. And we check back in. SportsCenter in game with Bill Pito.
All right, Steve, Georgia and Ole Miss. Georgia up 7-zip. Ron Haynes running it in, but then Eli Manning. Jason Armstead as Manning rolls and makes a nice move to complete the pass. They mix the extra point, however, they're down 7-6.
All right, Bill, thanks. Bring up a 2nd down and 6 for the Buckeyes. Ohio State scored 23 unanswered points in the 2nd half 1 week ago. Started to put some things together in recent weeks. Now with the new quarterback Scott McMullen and replacing Steve Belisari today. Here's McMullen going up top, looking for Jenkins. Good coverage by Christian Morton, step for step. And it looked like if there was any contact, it was initiated by Jenkins.
And Christian Morton, the converted quarterback, continues to show how impressive he is in coverage. He was not fooled by the play action, stride for stride with Jenkins. If anybody was going to come over the ball, it would have been number 5.
Let's go down to Dave.
Yeah, guys, strong Ohio State run game, in large part due to the great blocking of Tyson Walter up front. It's an incredible story. This is his 6th year, and this finally is his last game on the home field at Ohio Stadium. Started back in 1996. Steve, after this play, we'll tell you more about Tyson Walter.
All right, Dave, we look forward to that. Here's McMullen throwing, and nearly intercepted by Morton. Again, good coverage on the play with Chris Gamble, the intended target that time. Dave?
Stevie missed off last year as a senior because he had an infection in his lower back. At one point, he was hospitalized for several days, lost a lot of weight. His doctors couldn't nail down the source of the infection for several weeks, prolonging what was a miserable situation. Then he applied for and was granted a 6-year of eligibility by the NCAA, so he got a medical red shirt. In the end, they said the infection started in his shoulder and moved its way down to his lower back. Bizarre story.
Tyson Walter, the guy who replaced Orlando Pace, did a nice job. And he nearly blocked again. Green took his time, and again, the Illini got good pressure. Eugene Wilson will let it bounce. And it will stop and roll there after what is credited a 54-yard punt by Andy Groom. Kurt Kittner will take to the field with his 12th-ranked Illini, trailing by 3. 5:02 left to play here in the 2nd quarter. The Buckeyes by 3, and the Fighting Illini with the football. Student newspaper around these parts yesterday said 8 days until Michigan. Not tomorrow, Illinois. The Michigan game weighing on their minds already. And a heavy-duty hit by Mike Doss on Rocky Harvey. Let's go down to Dave.
Yeah, guys, late 3rd quarter a year ago was Mike Doss last year in Champaign against Illinois, KOing quarterback Kurt Kittner on a ferocious hit near the goal line. Kurt missed the end of that game with a severe concussion and the season finale with Northwestern. Illinois did not make a ball because of it. More on the story after this, Steve.
All right, David, there was no flag on the play. One of the heaviest hits you'll see. Rocky Harvey, the ball carrier. Back down to Dave.
Ron Turner says no one has forgotten the hit in Champaign. He thinks while it was not a late hit, leading with the helmet was wrong of Mike Doss, and felt that Doss was trying to knock Kittner out of the game and that he should be ejected for a play like that. We talked with the Ohio State coaches yesterday. Defensive coordinator Mark D'Antonio, who was not in Ohio State with the staff last year, he said Doss was just playing hard. He's not going to try to curb his aggressiveness.
Doss's favorite player is Jack Tatum. Gives you an idea how he plays the football game, though, as Kittner completes to Brian Hodges, his first reception of the afternoon. C. Grant came up to make the stop. Gain of 16 on the play.
Hodges is wide open. I think it's because Matt Wilhelm, the middle linebacker who had him in coverage, just completely lost him. Initially, you could see that Kittner wanted to go to the outside, but does a nice job coming off the outside inside to number 80, who was wide open on the out route. And why, oh why, would a tight end be the second choice? I don't understand.
Can't understand that, right?
Hodges a little shaken up over that one.
Hodges originally, beginning of the season, was really more of a blocking tight end. It didn't have a single catch in the first 6 games. They were throwing much more to Anthony McClellan. But he's got the catch here today. And over the last 3 games, got 4 catches, including 2 for touchdowns. Here's Carey Davis, nothing doing. More on the Big Ten action today. Back to Bill Pito.
All right, Steve, Penn State 2-4 in the conference. Indiana 3-3. This is Larry Johnson. Gets the pitch, touchdown. Penn State tying things up at 14. Elsewhere, Northwestern on conference at home, leading Bowling Green 21-7, halfway through quarter number 2.
Northwestern will be in Champaign on Thursday. Illinois wins here today, and Michigan loses later on today. We'll have that game for you Thursday afternoon at 1 Eastern from Champaign-Urbana. Here's Kittner completing to Greg Lewis. Went up and came down with the ball. Donnie Nicky pounded him, and Lewis hung on.
And I'm so happy for Lewis because, Steve, last year for the Fighting Illini, he was the leading receiver on the team. He has been absolutely nondescript up to this point simply because of the fact that Lloyd has come back. He's got the lion's share of the attention. And along with Moorhead and Young, he's been somewhat of a forgotten young man. It's certainly not there. That was a huge catch.
This is their 10th game of the season. That's his 10th catch of the season. Didn't have any catches in the previous 2 games. Kittner starting to spread the football around. Kittner going up top looking for Walter Young. Sideline, he's got it. Touchdown! Walter Young went up. Great catch. Hung on and made his way to the end zone for the 37-yard score, beating C. Grant for the jump ball.
And it's interesting, too, because of all the people you would have thought he would not have beaten for the jump ball, you're thinking C. Grant. C. Grant is a very large corner at 6'1", 220 pounds. But Young, again, another converted quarterback with great athletic ability, takes advantage of the 6'5" frame to get over the top and provide a touchdown for the blue and orange.
Kittner usually bounces back in the 3rd or 4th quarter. Looks like he's bounced back here in the 2nd quarter from a tough start. Peter Christophilakos on to attempt the extra point and put it through. Kurt Kittner heating up on that particular drive. It was perfect. 3 of 3 for 76 yards. The score, Walter Young, all 6'5" of them went up for the touchdown. A familiar sight over major sporting events for more than 75 years and a pioneer in airborne camera facilities. Our aerial views courtesy of Goodyear and its fleet of airships on the wings of Goodyear. Cutting through some of the fog here in Columbus.
You know, we talk about Lloyd, but Young is the one having the big day, Steve. 3 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown.
Jets will kick it out of the end zone, and Ohio State will take over. 1st and 10 from their own 20. We'll get another look at Scott McMullen at quarterback. The Illini scoring drive, and Kurt Kittner continues to pile up the numbers, climbing on the charts. I had a chance to re-talk again with Mel Kiper Jr. this past week in terms of Kittner and what people are saying. Mel said he has Kittner as the 3rd quarterback to go in the upcoming NFL draft between David Carr and Joey Harrington. He said a lot of NFL types have Harrington and Carr flipped. I beg your pardon, Harrington and Kittner flipped. And speaking of flips, Craig Krenzel is in at quarterback now for Ohio State. Thought we'd see McMullen again. We were told to expect Krenzel. And here he is on 1st down and 10 from the 20. He's going to keep it himself. He's wrapped up and dropped for a big loss by Derek Strong.
One of the things that Illinois does well on defense is their discipline. They stay where they're supposed to be. As we see Krenzel, molecular genetics. Must be a bright young man. As opposed to turf and sod science. Was that the other thing that we saw with regards to
McMullen? Yes, that's accurate.
This is, Steve, this is a very difficult time to put in the young quarterback. And look now for Illinois, Steve, to after this play, use their timeouts.
Krenzel is supposedly the best pure pocket passer on the team. We'll see some of that. Play action. Lofting one down the sideline, and just too much for Michael Jenkins. There was contact there. You want to see like hand-to-hand combat at the very end.
Steve, I've got to be candid with you here. I don't like this for a lot of reasons. First of all, yes, you've got the good pocket quarterback, all the things you're talking about, that's great. But in this case, the chances of coming up with this are not very good. You've got a kid that has not played at all, and he's supposed to come in and deliver that ball on the money. Now that's a minute 43, the clock is stopped. And what that means then is that Illinois is going to have tremendous field position without having to use any of their timeouts.
Illinois has 3 timeouts remaining. Ohio State 2 timeouts left. Here's 3rd and 17. For Craig Krenzel, the sophomore from Utica, Michigan. Off the play action, Krenzel will try the left sideline. Looking for some help from Vance, who went up to try to get it and could not bring it down with Christian Morton. That'll bring up 4th down.
I don't want to be overly critical, but those are 3 horrendous calls. Because now,
that's pretty
timeouts. Well, no, I mean, what? A minute 36 remaining, you're going to have to punt. You've had problems in the punting game to begin with. Illinois is going to have, even if Groom gets off a satellite, they're going to have terrific field position.
Ohio State passing so far today, just 4 of 15. That's the 2 quarterbacks. Here's Groom. Not a good punt, short and low to the 50. Returned by Eugene Wilson, looking for some space. This will be brought down. Actually lost some yardage there, out to the 44-yard line. Strange happenings here. What's going on elsewhere? Here's Bill Pito.
All right, Steve, coming up at the half, we'll find out if Tennessee can make it 17 straight over Kentucky. We'll run down the rest of the action of the Big Ten, and also Chris Fowler and the Game Day crew previewing Miami and Syracuse from Miami. We'll see you at the half.
All right, Bill, thanks. Let's go down to Dave.
Yeah, guys, before the game, Jim Tressel did tell me he was planning on using Craig Krenzel sometime in the 2nd quarter. He wanted to make sure that Krenzel had a chance to see some live bullets, as he said before. He might have to come in late in the game to replace Scott McMullen. Those were his first snaps of the year, Steve. He played in 7 games last year.
All right, Dave, here's Kurt Kittner, the experienced one, swinging one out to carry Davis. And Davis, instead of going out of bounds, will take on some people like Derek Ross.
That may be, Steve, but this is just, with 2 minutes remaining in the half, to put the young man in. Those are the first snaps of the year in a game as close as this, and the magnitude of the game.
Here's Kittner throwing, got a man wide open. It's Aaron Moorhead, touchdown! Wide open. Kittner to Moorhead for 6.
Steve, this is a great pump fake that fools C. Grant. And he's sitting there visiting right now with Joe Cooper and Mike Doss trying to figure it out. But it was a pump fake, comes downfield. Take a look now. You'll see watch at the bottom of your screen and watch the pump fake by the quarterback. Watch the pump fake right here. Just fooled completely. Wide open. Boy, that's a great move by Kittner, but a poor job by Grant on his man.
Here's Peter Christophilakos on for the extra point. And he puts it through. We told you about Kittner heating up. His last 2 possessions, 5 of 5 for 120 yards and 2 scored. The complexion of this game changed coming into it with the suspension, the indefinite suspension of Steve Belisario, and it's changed even more over the last minute 37. 2 Fighting Illini touchdowns over the last minute 37. And Maurice Hall take the touchback in the end zone, and it'll be 1st and 10 from the 20-yard line. And Ohio State will give it another go, and we'll see which quarterback comes out on the field. It's certainly an interesting call, Todd, in terms of the change of quarterback. We were told in advance, like Dave reported, we would see both of the quarterbacks, but how about the timing? Maybe to start the 2nd half.
Well, certainly, you know, with the game is very competitive. It's 14-10. You haven't taken any snaps all year. In the biggest game of the year, you're going to come in with 2:38 remaining in the half and do what happened. Joe Bowman, offensive coordinator, I think you really have to question that strategy. Certainly get the young man in the game, but in a much less pressurized situation.
Deep in his own end.
Yeah.
Here's Craig Krenzel again at quarterback. Scott McMullen started today. And here's Krenzel. And he'll hand it off to Jonathan Wells. And that'll help out the quarterback. Wells is still on his feet. And he's dropped at the 44-yard line by Christian Morton. Gain of 24. Hey, Wells helped out McMullen in similar fashion earlier in the game.
Of course, now they're in their hurry-up mode, and you have to question again. The young man has not been in a hurry-up mode before.
45 seconds to play in the quarter. Here's Tressel throwing and completing to Michael Jenkins for the catch. And that'll stop the clock. We talked with Jim Bowman about the reps, about a backup quarterback gets, and we were surprised to know it's about 60-40. Belisari getting 60% of it, McMullen getting 40. What would that leave for Tressel then? That'd be the big zero.
Then he works almost exclusively with a scout team is what that leads him.
But you were shocked by the 60-40.
I really was, that in most cases about 80-20 or 90-10. The starter usually gets all the reps.
Looked like there was movement. Somebody jumped on the right side early, and Tressel will be taken down by Ty Myers. Looked like Darnell Sanders, the tight end, moved early.
That was certainly discombobulated, and as a result of the tackle, I think Illinois is going to be able to refuse the penalty. In the midst of this, Steve, in the midst of this, as we talk about quarterbacks and Kurt Kittner and the changes and all these different things, Jonathan Wells has one whale of a first half.
Lineman illegally in motion on the offense. Penalty declined. Second down. Timeout.
13 carries for 140 yards is what I had. Boy, oh boy. Nice little 10 yards per carry. Not too bad, huh?
Keep that up. 41 seconds to play in this first half. Wells had a big game against Illinois last season. He was filling in for the injured Derek Combs. Rushford was then a career high, 131 yards, and caught 5 balls for another 50 yards. So we take a wide look from our blimp shot, the Goodyear blimp. Overhead, Ohio Stadium, better than 100,000 on hand. Ohio State, they still control their own destiny. Of course, the Michigan game is 1 week away, and that is always the focus here in Columbus.
But it shouldn't be. Right this second, it should be the Fighting Illini, who are up by 11, a very good football team. Of course, as we get a chance to look at the Big Ten standings, we remind you that Illinois has the best overall record of any team in the conference. And if they were to win out and win a bowl game, we pointed out earlier, that would be the first time in their history they would have been 11-1. And as it is, Steve, at their 8-1 mark right now, that's the first time they've done that since 1983.
Illinois in the BCS as well for the first time at number 10. Interesting to note, Michigan is behind them at number 11. Look at the bottom part of the Big Ten. The bottom part of the Big Ten standings looking a lot better than it did earlier in the season.
Yep.
Seems like Indiana and Penn State.
No gimmies.
That had struggled at the start have really come on, and it seems like everyone's alive in bowl contention. The Big Ten tied to 5 different bowls. Only 3 schools are bowl eligible right now. Here's Tressel now with all sorts of time. Lofts one, looking for Jenkins, jump ball, and it's batted away. Eugene Wilson there on Michael Jenkins.
Twice now, though, they've had throws that they haven't been able to get back, and there's a holding call, it appears. And I think that this is one that Illinois will take. And again, let's point that out, though, that with regards to Eugene Wilson, number 28 for Illinois, that gives him another PBU, Holmes.
That's right. The leader in the country.
I love those.
Todd explains PBU to me every single week.
On the offense, 10 yards from the previous spot. Repeat, second down.
26 coming into that game. That means 3 times a game that guy breaks up passes.
Wilson had 3 interceptions last week in the game against Penn State. Made him the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week. But there it is, the pass breakups.
Wow.
Breaking up is hard to do.
That's
scary.
That's awful. That's awful.
It's getting scary. Must be late in the season. Final half minute to play here in the first half. On second down and 20. Problem on the exchange there. Fumble with Tressel in the center. And Krenzel's able to recover his own fumble. McMullen had trouble earlier on one, and now Tressel.
Steve, I think the wisdom would be, you see Jim Tressel wanting a timeout. I'm thinking the wisdom would be, hey, you know what? Let's regroup. Yeah. And again, this is you see that this is certainly not Bentley's fault. It's simply the fact that he has not had that young man behind his butt. He's had Steve Belisari.
Jim Bowman, the offensive coordinator for Ohio State, stared us straight in the face yesterday and said, personally, for him, he would be more concerned if Bentley went down because of the lack of depth, lack of experience playing behind the center position, as opposed to Belisari being out for whatever reason. Although that's hard to believe. And we've seen some problems today with McMullen and Tressel.
Well, you know what O'Neill's talking about on Fox News, right? Spin. That's what that is.
Spin City right here in Columbus.
Now this is interesting to me, Steve. If you look at the 3 losses right here, 2 of those games, the last 2, of course, they had leads of 17-0 and 27-9. Essentially, if they'd have made 3 plays, I mean, that's what you're looking at, really. Essentially, if they'd have made 3 plays, they'd be undefeated, because as you look at the wins, there really aren't any close wins, with the exception of Minnesota, but that one's deceiving, too, because they scored with about 30 seconds left and kicked an onside kick that they didn't get back. And so, as you also take a look at the blown leads, I think that's something Jim Tressel documented at the top along with Dave Ryan. Dave Ryan pointed that out to us, as he said, I've only been here 10 months. I really don't know this team.
Right. Mark D'Antonio, their defensive coordinator, said to us last week, they feel like if his unit has done their job, they should be 8-1. Not undefeated, but at least 8-1. And instead of sitting at 6-3. Here's Tressel now, all sorts of time, throwing underneath and completing. Down to the 17-yard line to Michael Jenkins now with 9 seconds left. And it looks like Ohio State has taken their final timeout.
Now they have to get everybody set and spike it so they can come in and kick the field goal.
Clock is stopped on the first down. Then they wind it again, so only 1 second goes off the clock as they spike it.
Now, Steve, here's the, well, I don't want to say the depressing part, because you don't want to get ahead of the game here, and you don't want to be the gloom of doom. This has got to be a field goal situation. You got to kick a field goal here. What are your chances here from 20 yards out?
Couldn't take a shot in the end zone, one play?
Well, maybe so, but if the clock runs out as he's scrambling around and you don't have the opportunity to kick the field goal, you're going to really kick yourself. This just goes to show.
They have 2 seconds to get the snap off here, and they can't do that. And they're already out of timeout, so they couldn't take one there.
This is awful.
Delay a game
awful.
will be the call. There you see the reaction from Tressel. Hey, let's calm down here.
Here's the reason, Stephen. We talked about it earlier. 9 for 21 for field goals has a lot to do with that.
That's one point.
And then the other thing, too, is that maybe they just feel as if this young man can throw a dart. I don't know. But I figure that even with the struggles of Mike Nugent, he's got to come in and at least attempt the field goal, because prior to the penalty, Steve, it was inside the 40-yard line. Got to give it a shot. 40-yard, inside 40 kick, rather.
Here's Tressel. Throwing the fade in the corner of the end zone. Looking for Vance, and Christian Morton was right there. Todd, my question is, why not that play, and now you still have time to kick the field goal? With 8 seconds left, why not take the shot?
Well, I think that's what they ultimately wanted to do, but again, Illinois is not stupid. They had people backpedaling in this situation, but see, the 5 yards could be costly, Steve, because now we're looking at a 40-yard kick.
Nugent has missed from 36 and connected from 23. The true freshman kicker, Mike Nugent, from 40 yards. And it is no good. Ohio State not sound in the kicking game today. Missed field goals. Andy Groom had a punt blocked. And we are at halftime in Columbus. And the Illini leading 21-10. Let's go to the Sports Center in-game halftime report with Bill Pito and Rodney Gilmore. Back in Columbus, Ohio, prior to the start of the second half. And when we do start the second half, 12th-ranked Illinois has a 21-10 lead over Ohio State. Welcome back, everyone. Steve Levy alongside Todd Christensen. Thoughts from Dave Ryan in just a bit. Clearly, the focal point leading into this game for at least the Buckeyes was the suspension of Steve Belisari. And you'd hope throughout the course of this game it would not continue to be the story. But now with the 2 inexperienced quarterbacks finding themselves trailing here in the second half, it's going to be on it again.
Well, particularly at the end of the first half, Steve, if you have a quarterback that hasn't played the entire year, you want to put him in a crucial situation like that with 2:38 remaining. He only took 1 minute off of the clock, and the result is, instead of being down 14-10, they're down 21-10. Kittner has been outstanding in the first half, as you see the numbers that he has put together. Conversely, the 2 Ohio State quarterbacks have struggled, 6 for 18 and 90 yards. And as we documented, Jonathan Wells would have to take the Lions' share of the load, and he's done just that, averaging nearly 11 yards per carry, 13 carries for 140 yards.
If you're just joining us again, no Steve Bellisari, but Ohio State did have the lead for a good portion of that first half, but 2 Illinois touchdowns in the final minute 37 gives them the 11-point lead leading into the second half. For more, let's go down to the field. Third member of our crew, that's Dave Ryan.
All right, Steve, thanks so much. Remember the start of the game, we talked with head coach Jim Tressel of Ohio State. He was unsure how his team would respond to the absence of Steve Bellisari. I talked to him a moment ago as the team headed out of the locker room to begin the second half. He felt confident the team had played hard. They had fought well, but not well enough, especially defensively against Kirk Kittner. In terms of the quarterbacks, he does say that both the starter, Scott McMullen, and the backup, Craig Krenzel, will see plenty of action. He wasn't sure how the split would work in the second half, but both will see significant time in this second half, Steve.
All right, Dave. Well, that's certainly consistent with what he told us yesterday, that we'd see both quarterbacks. Didn't know how much or how long. We'll see who starts here to open up the second half. We'll have to wait a little while because Illinois will get the football as Josh Houston kicks it away and Eugene Wilson will receive. They fake the reverse on the kickoff, and Wilson keeps it out to the 25, and they'll fake a little more razzle-dazzle out of the Illini. They'll open 1st and 10 from the 30. But before that, our Pepsi Twist first half stats.
Now, Steve, really, if you were coming in and you took a look at that, you saw the turnovers at the bottom, the rush yards, and what's not shown here is the time of possession, which is superior for Ohio State, you think the score would be much different. But instead, the combination of Kirk Kittner's acumen and the inability of Ohio State to get anything going in the passing game, that's the reason why they have right now the 11-point lead to the Illini.
Kirk Kittner will hand off to open. Quarter number 3, that time to Carey Davis. You saw Kittner's numbers last 5 for 5. And again, we've documented his struggles in the first half recently. However, today's game was only really struggling in the first quarter. Came on really in the second.
It's unexplainable. And if Ron Turner can't explain it, then I'm not going to try.
Illinois apparently has been rather tight in the first half. Last couple of games have had some drops, lack of confidence. That has not been the case today. Here's Kittner. And just as I say that was a low ball to Walter Young that he could not come up with. Young had the big touchdown in the second quarter. Bring up a 3rd and 9.
Walter Young, though, as you pointed out, with the big first half, 3 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown.
He and Lloyd form the number 9 receiving duo in the nation. You say, hey, well, you know, that's all Brand Lloyd. Well, not the case. Walter Young certainly does his share. He's got 456 receiving yards coming into action today. Here's 3rd down and 9 for the Illini. Kittner to drop. Protection is good all sorts of time. Across the middle, able to complete to Greg Lewis. Again, a forgotten man in the previous couple of games. His second grab today.
And really a large grab for this reason, and that quiets the crowd. If Illinois would have gone 3 and out, whoever the young quarterback would have been, would have had great field position coming onto the field with the crowd behind him. Now Lewis with once again another crucial 3rd down conversion. Gets it across midfield for Illinois.
It's a 21-yard gain on that last play. And they'll mix up the pass with the run. Rocky Harvey doing it. You know, we failed to mention we make so much, and it's obviously a bigger deal because it's the quarterback of the Buckeyes in Bellisari, but Illinois came in without their top running back, Antonio Harris.
That's a good point. We forgot to mention that Harris, their leader, 5 yards per carry, 600 yards rushing coming into last week, had broken his leg. And really that was an issue coming into the game, but Illinois, broke his wrist rather. Coming into this game, they were concerned about getting some power running, but at least in the first half, they were able to do some of that.
Sent Davis in motion, and here's Kittner to pass. Throwing, and that was not a good ball, but a flag comes late. Walter Young, the intended target. C. Grant's got the palms in the air saying, what, me? Are you kidding?
I'm not sure about that either, Steve. It seemed to me that the collision was a byproduct of the ball being thrown behind. And Grant looking up at the screen to see if he can get a replay. Take a look as to whether or not number 6 has his hands on Young. But he's got a piece of him right there. Grabs the back of his. Oh, well, that's no brainer. You got to call that. And so I don't know what C. Grant is complaining about. Steve, I used to actually play, a little inside secret. When I played with my shirt untucked for that very reason. Because as soon as the guy pulls on the shirt, then you can see the separation, as opposed to if the thing is tucked, and it's not quite as obvious.
It's like the tie-down jersey in hockey. You have to have it tied down just to get into a fight. We see Walter Young's shirt's out right now. We hand off to Rocky Harvey. Matt Wilhelm came up to make the stick.
What's happening here is that they can't establish the run, but I really think, Steve, that as a result of what happened near the end of the first half when they scored 14 points in a mere minute 37, not unlike 2 years ago when they scored 10 points in 34 seconds, I think the defense, particularly the secondary for Ohio State, is a little bit shell-shocked. We need to get some pressure on Kittner here in these next couple of plays when he drops back.
2nd and 9. Here's Kittner. Flags go down. And we'll sort it out. I mentioned Illinois in that win here in '99. Todd, it was 46-20. It was Ohio State's worst home loss in 50 years. That's saying something.
Prior to the snap, false start on the offense, 5 yards, repeat, 2nd down.
Saying something else is Dave Ryan.
All right, Steve, talking with Ron Turner, the Illinois coach, at halftime. He said the big missed field goal by Mike Nugent at the end of the first half created a lot of momentum for Illinois, but only if his team could take advantage of it. He feels they will because of the team focus. Guys, he says, in 24 years of coaching, 8 different schools, the Bears in the NFL, he has never seen a more focused team than this.
It's quite a statement. Carey Davis, the ball carrier, nothing doing. Marco Cooper, not Joe Cooper that time, Marco Cooper among the Buckeyes to make the stop.
I question that call simply because of the fact that they needed to get at least a little bit more yardage to get into field goal range. Now, the pressure is on Kittner to do that. And we're looking at about at least 10 to 15 yards here before they can get in field goal range.
3rd and 15. As Kittner brings him up, single setback again is Carey Davis. Davis helps out of the protection, slung down the sideline. Walter Young couldn't get the angle on C. Grant.
And C. Grant this time is on top of it. Last time, remember, at the end of the first half, that was the move that fooled C. Grant on the slant, the fake slant. This time he's not buying it. Turns and runs with Young. That's a great job by number 6. Fool me once, but not fool me twice.
C. Grant, a good story. Came back last week after returning from a concussion, suffered against Minnesota, and had an interception. As the punt, and they're able to get it away. Steve Fitz allows it to bounce, and it'll be an Illinois bounce. And Ohio State will be backed up at their own 4-yard line. 33-yard punt by Fitz. Doesn't sound all that great, but it looks great now at the 4-yard line.
Well, McMullen started off well with the touchdown pass, but when the shift to Krenzel came, that was the shift in momentum. 3 and out. That afforded a great pump fake to Moorhead, and I think that was a huge turnaround, Steve, in this game there at the end of the first half when they went with different quarterbacks.
Jonathan Wells has been the offense for Ohio State so far. And he'll have to continue to be as Scott McMullen, their first series of this 3rd quarter, hands off to Jonathan Wells. Brandon Moore the stop, and we send it back to Bill Pito.
All right, Steve, thank you very much. South Carolina trying to bounce back after getting drilled by Florida a week ago. Taking on Clemson. Derek Watson, touchdown, and South Carolina up 10-9 at the half. In the meantime, elsewhere in the Big Ten, Michigan State in front of Purdue, 7-0. 3rd quarter.
That's the 3rd quarter. Thanks, Bill. How about the Purdue offense continuing to struggle? On 2nd down and 7. I get the sense we're going to see a lot of Jonathan Wells the rest of the way. Terrell Washington makes the stop. At halftime, Wells had 13 rushes for 140 yards. The rest of the Buckeye offense, 29 plays, 114 yards, just 3.9 yards per snap, as opposed to nearly 11 yards per play by Wells.
Well, and you got to ride that horse. I mean, because right now that's the most effective. That's the most effective way to go. Of course, you're saying, well, come on, we've got great wide receivers. Well, you do, but you have great wide receivers that have not necessarily forged a rapport with these reserve quarterbacks.
And their field position, Todd, hasn't helped either. Ohio State's last 4 field possessions, they started at the 5, they're 20, they're 20, and again they started this drive at the 5.
Give credit to Steve Fitz for that.
Fumble. McMullen looked like he fumbled the snap, recovers, trying to set up the screen, and then it's dropped. Everything going wrong there for Ohio State. Adrian Clark got a piece of it.
Well, it had kind of a Keystone Cops feel to it.
Wow.
Simply because of the fact that not only dropping the fumble, but then trying to do the fake and trying to get your pass rushers upfield. They'll refuse that and force them to punt. Once again, Groom put in a difficult situation. First is the ball that goes through his legs. Fortunately it hit Clark's heel, and he's able to get it up. Now Clark, for some reason, decides that he wants to be a receiver. He doesn't understand that you can't take it on the hop and go. Those are definitely playground rules there, Adrian.
Adrian Clark, the biggest of the offensive linemen for the Buckeyes, 6'5", 325. He's got the wheels, I understand, Todd.
They're in the garage then.
There you see more the documentation, the size of the massive Adrian Clark.
Heights, Ohio is the only one shaking right now.
Andy Groom from the end zone. A little pressure and contact. Groom taken down. Happened earlier in the game. Terrell Washington slammed into him. Eugene Wilson on the punt return. Again, there's a flag down as Wilson will run out of bounds at the 47-yard line.
This is absolutely foolish on the part of Washington, who should know better. As a veteran defensive lineman, there's absolutely no excuse for this. A block punt at this point usually would only produce 2 points anyway. Why don't you want to get the field position? Of course, he is close enough to get it. He looks around and says, no, it wasn't intentional, but if you're not going to get the punt, that's what's costly.
Washington is the player who's gotten all the blocks, or for the most part, the majority of the blocks. Blocked a couple of field goals against Northern Illinois, and that was a key game because the Fighting Illini only won that game by 5 points. He also blocked an extra point against Indiana. There's a little block happy there.
And Ron Turner is livid, and justifiably so. There's just no excuse for that in that circumstance. You stuffed the team. They're on their own 5-yard line. Now suddenly you give them a gift 15 yards, and the result now is going to be first down for the Buckeyes in renewed life.
The senior from St. Louis making what would appear to be an inexperienced mistake and giving Ohio State another chance. You have to figure, Todd, given opportunity after opportunity, the Buckeyes are going to figure this out. Or at least they're going to keep handing off to Jonathan Wells, and he'll break a couple. Here's Wells. What a cutback that was across midfield. Finally brought down by Muhammad Abdullah.
And Abdullah seemed to be his mate for about the last 30 yards. He was the recipient of the free ride of that stiff arm. Watch number 7 in the secondary as he comes downfield. Watch the initial contact by Abdullah about 5 yards downfield. Now watch the extra yardage. 5, 10, 15, 20, about 22 yards. And Abdullah, who's a terrific tackler, just cannot bring down big number 28 early on.
Wells 16 carries for 172 yards. That was a gain of 27 on that last one. Went over 1,000 yards today. Handoff. Wells again. Derek Strong made the stop, and Craig Krenzel handing it off that time in place of Scott McMullen.
And that makes sense. Now's the time to come in again. Alternate series when there's not as much pressure, although it seems silly to say not as much pressure in a game of this magnitude that may dictate the Big Ten winner. Nonetheless, this is a much better situation to be in.
There you see the numbers on Krenzel. That is all today. His first snaps of the season. On 2nd down and 8, they pick up the blitz.
No, they don't.
Doesn't matter. They picked up one guy, but it wasn't enough. Jerry Schumacher comes in, his 2nd sack of the afternoon, and the Buckeyes would appear to be in big trouble.
And that gives him 7 sacks now in the season, 14 tackles for loss, and that's impressive for a middle linebacker. You documented how he is all over the field. I'm impressed by the fact that this young man plays not only every down, and I say every down because usually middle linebackers come out. He's in coverage, he blitzes, he stuffs the guards, he does everything a middle linebacker is supposed to do in addition to calling the defenses.
38 sacks now on the season for Illinois. They came in tied 3rd in the country in terms of total sacks, as you mentioned earlier, spreading the wealth. 18 different players have at least 1 sack. That's a way to keep everybody happy. On 3rd and 17, they just get the playoff. Krenzel throwing, showing good composure there, hitting Chris Vance across the middle, and he has just enough for the first down. Abdullah and Jackson brought him down, but not before Vance had first down yardage.
And you pointed out the composure of Krenzel. He is able to step up. The thing about Vance is he makes the catch, then takes a couple of steps backwards, and I thought for a minute he was not going to get the first down. Of course, play action means nothing at this point. Steps up, throws off the wrong foot. You see Vance backpedals, But as a result of cutting back against the grain and getting knocked forward by Washington, he's able to get the first down.
He needed 17 to pick up 18 on the play. Krenzel's going to put it up in the air again. Throwing the bullet along the grass. They'll say incomplete. Gamble tried to scoop it up off the turf. Todd, just a thought. Belisari is a lefty passer. That's obviously what Illinois was preparing for all week. Here they've seen a couple of righties today. Anything to that? Any adjustments?
No, I don't think so. Unless, of course, and I had asked Mike Cassidy that with regards to his blitzes, in terms of he changed for a left-hander coming into this game, and he said he did not. So, obviously, with a right-hander, it's not a consequence.
Second down and 10 upcoming. Out of the eye, Wells behind Martin. The Illini are coming again. Picked up for an out. Krenzel gets it away. Good pitch and catch there. Michael Jenkins coming back to his quarterback who appeared to be in some trouble. Gain of 14 as we send it back to Bill Pito.
All right, Steve, thank you very much. Georgia Tech and Wake Forest. Terrence Williams here for Wake going in. They're down 7, not anymore. All tied up early second half, 24-24. In the meantime, Kentucky in deep trouble, potentially down 14 at the half at Kentucky.
That is a shocking score, Bill. Thanks. Handoff, Lydell Ross checked into the game. He's brought down by Bobby Jackson. Let's go down to Dave.
Steve, a few weeks ago, Craig Krenzel missed the San Diego State game since it was played on the Buckeyes' bye week, which had been rescheduled after the terrorist strikes. He had plans to attend his sister's wedding. Since he was third string, Coach Jim Tressel gave Craig permission to attend the wedding. Guys, he's gone from being absent at a game, off the field, to now being on the field in a key situation. Biggest game of the year for the Buckeyes.
Something you said for that wedded bliss, Steve Levy.
I hope to find out, Todd, within the next 40 or 50 years. Here's Krenzel now. Throwing and completing. Jenkins sideline. Good for the first down. And Morton on the coverage there.
And Steve, at this point, this drive has not culminated yet in a touchdown, starting at their own 5. But you can't help but think that Terrell Washington just has to feel foolish at this point. The moribund offense of Ohio State was going nowhere. They would have had to punt. They had the ball in midfield. Now, as a result of that penalty, things have just turned around.
Jenkins has been the key receiver here on the stretch. 9 catches, or 6 catches for 95 yards to this point. They pitch it out to Wells. Not much doing there. Jerry Schumacher on another stop, but you start to see some rhythm between Krenzel and his receivers.
Well, in that case, that's the first time that I've seen Illinois get Wells for a negative play, and of course, that's where you have to stiffen is in the red zone. And of course, if I'm a defensive coordinator, Mike Cassidy for Illinois, I'm thinking to myself, you know what? We've got to come up with 9 in the box here. We got to make an inexperienced quarterback make a play down there.
Krenzel, who hopes to attend medical school after his career is over at Ohio State. We'll try to wonder what this penalty flag is for.
Well, the substitution is an issue here. They didn't get the people in
Substitution infraction on the offense. 12 men lined up, 5 yards. Repeat the down. Second down.
College football for you tonight on ESPN2. I like Utah in a big way in this game tonight.
You know, I can't believe I just heard that. I can't believe you just said that.
8th-ranked BYU. You know, they've had so much of a questionable schedule. I don't know. BYU looks to...
You're going to start with that again?
The Mountain West title, remain undefeated, and earn a BCS bid. They have a receiver on their team, I believe, has not been used to his maximum potential this season.
That is correct. Number 80. Throw him the ball.
Get 80 the ball. He's not going to come out with a Keyshawn Johnson book or anything, is he? Not his style. Their expense. Krenzel will throw for the end zone. It was incomplete. Looking for Vance. Eugene Wilson on the coverage, and there is a flag.
I find it interesting as you get pass interference completely away from the play, and here it is. Here's Jenkins versus Morton, cuts to the outside. He knocks, boy, oh boy, how was that defensive interference? Boy.
He looked like he was blocking downfield. That's what it looked like.
They should pick that one up.
Let's take another look at this play.
Take a look at Morton. He's downfield, comes to the outside. I don't know what's the thinking there. Yeah.
Jenkins looks pretty strong at 6'4", 200 pounds.
There is no flag on the play. The pass was not to the same area.
Well, again, you know, it's difficult to call pass interference when it's not where the play is involved, and Jim Tressel's going to argue the point. But I like the idea there's incidental contact. You know what? I would think that you might argue this because you're a hockey guy. But I would say that in sports, maybe the most difficult call has to be interference, pass interference.
I agree, no question. In any sport. That and the charge in basketball.
And the charge
very
in basketball,
difficult.
right.
Did he get to the spot first?
I don't know, you know, in the slash in hockey, you know, sometimes you get those guys that can fake, you know, they do the field floor, throw themselves headlong and get away with it.
You're going to open up the phone lines and take phone calls.
Outside corner in baseball, knee high. What's the deal here? High strike. Come on.
3rd and 16. 14th play of the drive. For Krenzel throwing to an area, and it's an area in the hands of Michael Jenkins. Touchdown, Ohio State.
Steve, I'm one of those people who has supported Mike Cassidy in terms of saying I think he's done a great job at Illinois. But with 3rd and 16, I do not understand why you blitz and leave man-for-man coverage on a 2-man route. It makes no sense, and that man right there, Washington, has to be the saddest man on the football field, understanding now the magnitude of that mistake of roughing the punter.
And the Buckeyes looks like they will go for 2, trailing by 5 with 5:43. Krenzel engineers a 95-yard drive after the roughing the kicker penalty. We know Krenzel hasn't had many snaps or experience. How about going for 2? 2-point conversion try. Sure. When's the last time you think you tried that?
That makes sense here down 5. You want to come within 3.
Yep, absolutely. And he's going to pass and he's going to be belted. Hit hard by Bobby Jackson, the strong safety, coming on the blitz. So the 2-point conversion fails. With 5:43 left, we're in a 5-point game. Todd will break it down and show you exactly what happened and what the players were thinking about when we come back.
ESPN's presentation of college football is brought to you by America's Dairy Farmers. Ah, the power of cheese. And by the United States Army, an army of one.
The reason I question the defensive philosophy of Illinois is this: with 3rd and 16, you've got a situation to where, why would you blitz these people and let everybody go man for man? And the reason here is not only because of the fact that you can force a 4th down, but of all the problems that Ohio State has had in their field goal kicking game, it's probably a 50% proposition at best. So really, Illinois played into the hands of Ohio State in that situation. They should have gone back in their zone, let him complete a 6- or 7-yard pass, and force a field goal that, like the old Navy commercials, not a job, it's an adventure.
Here's Josh Houston to kick it away. It'll be a short kick. Eugene Wilson will come up to get it at the 10. Out to the 20. Making some people miss, but not everyone. He's out to the 24-yard line, and we check in with Bill Pito.
All tied up at 7 at that point. Now Purdue up 10-7. Elsewhere, Larry Johnson before today, not a single rushing touchdown all year. This is 2nd one in the game against Indiana. Breaks a 14-14 tie. Lions up now 21-14.
Thanks. Larry Johnson had a 97-yard kick return against Illinois a week ago. Here's Kittner under pressure. He's going to go down. He had all sorts of time. Your proverbial coverage sack.
Steve, you're exactly right. He had plenty of time, and great job by Ohio State downfield, not fooled by the play action. Frazier is the one that's able to come off the block and make the sack. And you can see right there the sacks for Ohio State, not very many. As we pointed out, Steve, the leading sacker coming into this game only had 2.
Here's Kittner again. Pressure coming late. Good draw play to beat the blitz. And it's Carey Davis out to the 35. We mentioned Kittner is hardly ever touched He'd only been sacked 9 times in the first 9 games of the season, but here today, he dropped 3 times.
Well, I think the rhesus monkey pointed out the problems with not getting touched. You know, you want to have that feel. That's not what you meant, was it?
Yeah, no, as a matter of fact, it was. That's exactly what I was talking about. 3rd down and 3. And the flags fly.
Well, see,
the defense was pointing to the offensive line, it looked like, of Illinois.
Exactly. I think they were able to talk the official into it.
Prior to the snap, false start on the offense, 5 yards, remains 3rd down.
Coming back to the point that we were making, though, Steve, with regards to getting touched, and I goofed that up by being a little too facetious. The reality here is that Ohio State, especially in the front 7, has really risen their game today. I cite Joe Cooper knifing through in the 4th down play, the number of times that they have been hit in his face. Understanding the reality that with your starting quarterback gone on the other side of the ball, we have to step up.
Need a big defensive play. Kittner only 1 for 3 throwing this quarter. On 3rd and 7. Kittner down the sideline, got a man. It's Rocky Harvey out of the backfield. And could not come up with it. Mike Doss had the coverage. Wow.
They had exactly what they wanted. Illinois did in terms of man for man. And that was a play that they had earlier in the year for a touchdown to Harvey. And Doss should point skyward because he was gifted with that. He was beat. Harvey just does not come up with this ball. He needs to slide and come up with it. Instead, he tries to keep his feet. There's a situation as a receiver, you need to know the difference. Go down and get the ball. Don't worry about yards after the catch.
Chris Vance is back for it. The 30, trying to get around the corner, is sealed off. And Vance will cut to midfield, out to the 45. Kurt Kittner has had some problems with his receivers dropping footballs. He said he never yells at his teammates. They can always turn around and say, hey, didn't you throw 4 interceptions against Purdue? Whenever the Goodyear blimp is near with its camera focused on an event, you know you're going to get a unique view. Today, the spirit of Goodyear carries on that proud tradition. Began in 1962, Goodyear blimps have been appearing over major events since 1925. And there you see Nationwide Arena. This is a pro sports town in Columbus. I want to thank the Columbus Blue Jackets for showing the ESPN guys an awful lot of hospitality last night at the hockey game. Handoff to Jonathan Wells, trying the right side for a short gain. The Blue Jackets scoring a exciting 1-goal victory over the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim last night. How about that building?
Very exciting and a very enjoyable time. And those are probably the best seats I'll ever get in my life.
Tremendous club seats, hooking up the ESPN college football guys. Again, our thanks to the folks at the Columbus Blue Jackets. You know, you talk about a pro team. That's the only pro team in this town, but the Ohio State Buckeyes, they're treated like a pro football team in this area. That's how important they are to this community. Here's Krenzel throwing, and Michael Jenkins could not come up with it. Let's send it back to Bill Pito. Bill.
Earlier, George Godsey went 65 yards to Will Glover. Same 2 guys again in the 3rd quarter with the game tied at 24. Godsey, Glover wide open. This one for 47 yards. And Georgia Tech now up 31-24.
Deacons had won a couple of games in a row. Trying to keep their winning streak alive. 3rd down and 5 here.
Glover seems to be an apt name for a receiver, but still my favorite of all time, Cleveland's Fair Hooker. Still my favorite.
Here's Krenzel throwing and completing. Michael Jenkins coming up with the big grab. Christian Morton had the coverage, and it looked to be pretty good coverage. Interesting, a week ago it was all Chris Vance this and Chris Vance that. Today, it's all Michael Jenkins. 8 catches, 135 yards.
6'4", 200 pounds, and coming into this game season, averaging well over 20 yards a catch. Krenzel continues to get better with each throw. What a terrific throw right on the hands of number 12. Morton could do nothing about it. And of course, the more Krenzel throws, the better his rhythm gets.
On 1st down and 10, shake it up a little bit with the running game to Jonathan Wells. Brandon Moore made the stop for Illinois.
And if you've been with us the entire game, if you have the feeling, is this game going fast? The answer is yes. And a lot of that is intentional on the part of Ohio State, continuing to bleed the clock to not give Illinois the opportunities they have in the passing game. And I think that what happens then, Steve, is that Kittner in the group starts to panic a little bit because if they see the time bleeding off and feel as if every time now they get the ball, they have to make something happen.
On second down and 7. Hands off to Jonathan Wells. There's a hole for him, and he looks like he has first down yardage before Muhammad Abdullah made the stop.
Once again, the offensive line gets the thumbs up from Jonathan Wells. Create quite a hole for him on the right side, and the crowd getting back into the game as well. Steve Wells now 21 carries for 189 yards.
Needs a breather. Lydell Ross will check back in, the true freshman from Tampa, just 17 years old. He'll turn 18 in mid-December. First and 10, sends Hartsock in motion. And they'll give the ball to Ross. He's just inside the 15-yard line. Terrell Washington makes the stop, and he's got to make a lot more stops to make up for his goof earlier.
Jerry Schumacher penetrated and had him in the backfield, but just could not hold on as a 210-pounder shows he's more than just a scat back.
This is a bit of a rarity for Illinois, Todd. It's a 5-point game, final 90 seconds of the third quarter. All 4 of the Illini road games this season have been decided by at least 21 points. Every one a blowout. They've been fortunate enough to be on the right side of the blowout 3 of the 4 times. In this pivotal matchup in the Big Ten. Wells is back in the game, but Tressel doesn't meet him. He's throwing, and he's completing to Michael Jenkins down to the 5. Eugene Wilson to stop, and Dave Ryan has more.
Yeah, guys, if you're an Ohio State quarterback's family, you get front row seats. Al, come on down here, will you? Here's Al Krenzel, Craig Krenzel's dad from Sterling Heights, Michigan, outside Detroit. This must have been a crazy day for you. You didn't know if your son was going to play at all. After the Steve Belisari thing, now he's in there. How do you feel?
Actually, for Steve, I feel my heart goes out to Steve and the family, Belisari family, because it's a sad thing what happened. As far as I'm glad to see that the team is united, and they're playing very good ball today, I think. Very good ball.
Let's go for this play. Steve will talk to Al some more.
Craig Krenzel will hand off to Jamar Martin. Pounds down by the goal line, down to the 2. Back to you, Dave.
Al, what did you talk to with Craig about after you knew Steve Belisari was suspended and Craig was the second-string quarterback? Jim Tressel told us before the game that Craig would play today. What kind of feelings did Craig have over the last 24 hours?
You know, it is something that I think every young quarterback dreams of. The situation, the way it happened, is sad, but it was, you know, he wants to play.
Enjoy the rest of it.
Absolutely.
Dave, Mr. Krenzel, thank you. I'm just waiting for Travis Dorsch's parents to show up. Wouldn't that be something? Here's second down and goal. Handoff. Made it look easy. Jonathan Wells, touchdown Ohio State, and the Buckeyes have reclaimed the lead.
And now once again, Steve, they're going to have to go for 2 up by 1 point.
With 1 second left in the third quarter, Ohio State has had touchdown drives of 95 and 55 yards over their last 2 possessions, and Craig Krenzel is settling in rather nicely.
8 for 14, 138 yards. That's impressive for somebody just ice cold. And remember, Steve, at the end of the first half, you wouldn't have imagined that he would have done what he had done here in the second half because he was just abysmal in that one drive. And Ohio State's going to have to take a timeout to talk about this 2-point play. They only had 10 men on the field.
Jonathan Wells, his 12th touchdown of the season, only had 6 all of last year as we send it back to Bill Pito.
All right, Steve, earlier we showed you Montrell Lowe going in for Purdue, and guess what? Purdue up 10-7. Lowe goes high again. Leaping in there, 17-7 Boilermakers in the fourth quarter, and Georgia leading Ole Miss 14-9. That game about halfway through quarter number 3.
All right, Bill, thank you. Total offense in the third quarter, which has 1 tick remaining on it. Ohio State 140 yards, Illinois just 29 yards.
Steve, we get a chance from the blimp. Take a look at the right side of the offensive line. How many times do you see a runner from 2 yards out go in standing up? but they just plowed. Look at that opening. Wow. You could see that Tressel signals touchdown about 5 yards before Jonathan Wells is in the end zone.
And the complexion of this one continues to change.
I'm not sure that I can remember telestrating the blimp shot for quite a while.
When do we get to ride in the blimp?
Yeah,
that's what I want.
That's what I'm talking about.
Some of the crew did a couple of weeks ago. We were not privy to that invitation, though. Here's Tressel rolling to his right and throwing incomplete. Joe Beavis able to knock it away.
And Steve, not to attempt to be too prescient here, but I'm thinking that the two-point conversions that did not come through for Illinois are going to play, or excuse me, for Ohio State are going to play out later on, simply because of the fact that the field goal kicking game for Illinois is so superior.
Ohio State now with a 1-point lead, and there's Jonathan Wells pointing at his number 8. That, of course, the uniform number of senior co-captain Steve Belisari. Well, in case you missed it, and no one has missed it here in Columbus, has been suspended indefinitely. Belisari arrested early Friday morning in charge of driving under the influence.
Steve, his second backup, that is Tressel in the third quarter, 6 for 9 and 90 yards. So if people are concerned as to what they had in the future here at Ohio State at quarterback, they have to be pretty excited about that young man.
Absolutely.
Having said that, then you also ask yourself the question, why not get these people in earlier in the season? Not be in a situation where they're totally inexperienced if for whatever reason your starter goes down.
And Belisari is really struggling. They've stuck with him. Here's Josh Houston's kick. Eugene Wilson will take a knee, and Illinois will start 1st and 10 from their own 20. And they'll do so trailing. They trail by a point. Jonathan Wells and Ohio State, minus Steve Belisari, and they're up on top anyway. Pretty good being an Ohio State running back. You bump into Eddie George on the sidelines last week. There, of course, the great Archie Griffin, who received the Tradition of Excellence Award. One of 5 Ohio State Buckeyes to have his number retired here. He was given the Downtown Athletic Club in New York and the World Sports Humanitarian Hall of Fame in Boise. We're getting the Tradition of Excellence Award here today. On 1st down and 10, here's Pittman coming out and completing to Walter Young. Lauren Tate is a columnist out of Champaign, and he wrote, fast starts are nice, Todd, particularly in the 400-meter relay. But football teams rarely gain lasting fame for bursts in the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd quarter. Kind of a neat point. And the point is, Pittman and the Illini have rallied to come from behind late in games recently, and they're going to have to try and do it again here today. 30 seconds into quarter number 4. Rocky Harvey, forget about it. Mike Doss came up to make another big defensive play.
At one point, they're going to have to run that play and go to bootleg because absolutely nobody is going with Kittner. But a name, Steve, that we have not called in at least 2 quarters is Brandon Lloyd. Brandon Lloyd has been a complete non-factor in this game for Illinois.
Lloyd just 1 catch for 6 yards. And again, we pointed out 2 previous games only had 1 catch. But Illinois was able to win those games. Here they're trailing. You have to figure Lloyd will make a big play before this one is over. Here's Kittner looking across the middle and completing to Walter Young, who has been his go-to target, and he's nearly out at midfield. Let's go down to Dave.
All right, we are with the legend, Archie Griffin, the 2-time Heisman Trophy winner. You saw you talking a moment ago, Archie, with Jonathan Wells. What kind of interaction have you had? They've really rolled it up rushing with 214 rushing yards today.
Well, I just told him to keep doing what he's doing. He's doing a terrific job, and we need him to do that today, and I think he will continue.
It's been a difficult 48 hours for the program with the Steve Belisari suspension. You're around the team so much, working for the university. What's the feel you get with the guys?
Well, I think they're up for this football game. They all love Steve Belisari and hated to see what happened happen. But they're up for this football game, and they're playing as hard as they can play, as you can see.
And next week, Michigan, always a fun game for any Ohio State alum, right?
It always is a fun one, but we got to worry about this one first.
Thanks a lot, Archie.
All right.
Dave, Archie, thanks very much. Carrie Davis was the ball carrier there. And again, Ohio State does control their own destiny. They win today, beat Michigan next week in Ann Arbor, and Ohio State's getting that BCS bowl game. tremendous. You consider where they have come from this season and all their ups and downs. Here's Kurt Kittner. Again, it's Walter Young. Young's 6th catch of the day. About 120 yards. We revisit ESPN Game Track.
Good open field tackle just there by Derek Ross, but that's the biggest mistake of the game right there. And of course, Illinois has not put on much offense here in the second half, and the reason for that, Steve, is they have not been able to have the football. Just recently, time of possession has been Ohio State 27 minutes, Illinois 17.
Here's Kittner to throw, stumbles coming out of it, and it is dropped by Walter Young. Kittner just 13 of 20. 245 yards, pressure from Mike Collins. No pressure to get it to Bill Pito.
All right, Steve, Larry Johnson, 2 rushing touchdowns already, his first 2 of the year, and now this against Indiana. The shovel pass from Seneca, and look at Johnson. Knock him down. They can't. Johnson all the way inside the 10, touchdown. It's 28-14 Penn State.
Bill, thank you. I said 13 of 20. Those are the accurate. Doesn't it seem like Kittner has missed more than just 7 times today? I rechecked and triple-checked with Marty, and he assures me that is all correct. Draw play to carry Davis, and Simon Frazier makes his first stop.
It's a big play by Frazier for this reason, Steve, is that Ohio State had opted with a couple of bullets blitz. Both backers came, and if he was able to get past Frazier, he would have had a big yardage. But Frazier stays at home, makes the tackle. Now he forces a 3rd and 9.
The true freshman Simon Frazier from Upper Arlington, Ohio. 3rd down and 9, and the Buckeyes urging their crowd to get into this one. Better than 100,000 strong. 4 receivers for Kittner and the Illini. And the protection set up well, and the pass completed. And again, it's Walter Young. And it's good for the first down. Brandon Lloyd being used as a decoy.
Steve, what's happening here is that when they go with their 4 wide receiver set, they didn't have their nickel in the game, and at the very last minute, Ross tries to shuffle the safety out to Walter Young so he can take Brandon Lloyd man for man, and Young has been taking advantage. We asked early in the season of Ron Turner who is going to have to pick up the slack if people start to double team Lloyd, and he said that was the man, Young.
Hand off to Rocky Harvey around the right end. There is a flag down as Harvey is into the end zone. But there is a flag down, 23 yards on that play.
Steve, it's usually in the area that would indicate the number of people on the field for Ohio State, and I'm thinking that has to be against the Buckeyes.
There you see the counting.
I'm sure it is.
You are unbelievable, Todd, with that. You have like superhuman vision.
You know what?
No, don't give me
There's no flag on the play. The defense only had 11 players.
I'll take the
11 players on the defense.
Wait a minute. I said that's what it was. I mean, but regardless, the point is they're going to refuse it and they're going to punch it in. Harvey does a tremendous job of getting lost behind his line. Reminded me a little bit of the early 70s, late 60s, if you remember Tank Holmes and Mike Garrett used to get caught behind that big offensive line of Kansas City.
1st and goal. Kittner rolling to his right and throwing, and too much for Kenny Boyle. Boyle has yet to make a catch this season, and yet they were going to him in the end zone.
Take a look here as I'm talking about Harvey getting a chance to get behind people. You see the bottom of the screen. Here's coming off the field, but never mind that. Take a look here at the play and watch Harvey get caught behind the offensive line. And people here, they don't have the vision of him. He's stuck, he's stuck, he's stuck. All of a sudden, he cuts to the outside and he's gone, and nobody's able to find him.
3 tight ends, 2nd and goal. They send McClellan in motion, and they hand it off to Carey Davis. 2nd effort, not good enough. Just shy of the goal line. I'll bring up a 3rd down and goal.
You see Matt Wilhelm come out of starting to pump his fists, and of course, you would have to guess, Steve, that at that end of the end zone, they are going to be absolutely vociferous.
This used to be the horseshoe, enclosed as they went over 102,000. Now it's just a plain old shoe, and the shoe's getting loud on 3rd down and goal. Handoff, touchdown. It's Carey Davis untouched into the end zone, and the Fighting Illini jump back on top after the successful 80-yard drive.
Well, I tell you what, they must have concentrated everybody between the tackles because they just walked in, and of course Ron Turner now is faced with the dilemma of having to go for 2 points here. Because with 10:48 remaining, and I understand his thinking, Ohio State is not likely to kick 2 field goals in that period of time, so you need to go for 2.
2-point conversion attempt. Hitting it, looking left the whole way, and it's intercepted. Derek Ross picked it off. Ross stepping in front of Brandon Lloyd. And so it will remain a 5-point game. 27-22. The Buckeyes are trailing. And who's going to be their quarterback when Ohio State comes out on offense? You have to believe it'll be Craig Krenzel.
ESPN's presentation of college football is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, located on the web at nbusa.com, and by Tostitos Scoops, the dip lover's chip.
Back in Columbus, Maurice Hall returning the Steve Fitz kickoff, and is able to get it out across the 20 to the 23-yard line, and we send it back to Bill Pito.
All right, Steve, thank you very much. The situation is developing between Tennessee and Kentucky. They were down 21-7. That was the score at the half. That's the score in the third quarter. But Kelly Washington, former baseball player, a 22-year-old freshman, takes it in for the touchdown. And now the Tennessee defense. The interception is made. Rashad Moore covers it up. Eventually, I got it, you got it, he's got it, count it. Touchdown. Tennessee going for the extra point.
All right, Bill, let us know about that as the Buckeyes and Craig Krenzel hand off to Jonathan Wells for the short game. Brett Cotter makes the stop. 10.5 to play in the fourth quarter. The Fighting Illini leading by 5.
This is a different story now, and that is that, you know, before I get the sense that the young quarterback, you come in, hey, you got none to lose, what the heck, you air it out, had a great third quarter. It's not the case anymore. Now that it's clear that they can do what they can do. I think that Illinois has lost the novelty of Krenzel, and now, rather, are not fooled anymore by the novelty of Krenzel, and now are prepared for him, and this is where the young man has to step up.
Second down and 8. Krenzel will go play action, getting pressure. Will just throw it away, and that's a good play. Jonathan Wells was the intended target. Mike O'Brien pressured Krenzel. And for more on the young quarterback of Ohio State, here's Dave.
All right, Steve, just talk with Al Krenzel, his dad. A little bit more about Craig. Get some background. We don't know much about Craig since he hasn't played at all this year, although he did play in 7 games last year. He and Steve Belisari are roommates here at Ohio State, and Al told me a moment ago they are very close, good friends. So Craig really dedicating everything he can to his buddy and roommate, Steve Belisari, today.
All right, Dave, good stuff. Krenzel played 7 games, Dave pointed out. Got into action against South Carolina in their losing effort last year in the Outback Bowl as well. So that's a bowl experience. And that ball is caught. Chris Vance. There's his obligatory one-handed grab of the afternoon.
And of course, the issue here is how generous a spot is he going to receive. Vance on the out route gets shoved out by Jackson. Look at the catch. Well, that's great hands. And he kept his feet in. And you see the ball. But it was on his person, so they kept it. It's going to be just a little bit short of the first down.
4th and 1. Andy Groom's punts have been quite an experience. They had one blocked, had a fake. He ran for 27 yards. It was a personal foul, which is one of the key points earlier in the game. Eugene Wilson is back for it at the 20. They're trying to reverse direction. Forget about it. Wilson is dropped at the 28-yard line by Derek Ross. 4 lead changes in a tie. This one isn't close to being over.
ESPN's presentation of college football is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, located on the web at nbusa.com. By Tostitos Scoops, the dip lover's chip.
Final game of the season here at Ohio Stadium. Another record crowd. 104,407 fans jammed in here. So that they have a new record crowd every single home game here in Columbus. Brandon Lloyd, take him off the list of missing persons. Comes up with the catch there. C. Grant had the cover.
Steve, one of the reasons that I think that Brandon Lloyd has been muffled has been the great play of Derek Ross, number 7. A number of times I've looked up, he's been man-for-man coverage. Lloyd's had the opportunity to get open, but Ross has covered him. You mentioned at the outset that this is the man who is leading the Big Ten interceptions, but a lot of times that's not the measure of how well you're playing as a defensive back.
Handoff, Rocky Harvey. Slid ahead for 1. Mike Doss the stop. And we send it back to Bill Pito.
All right, Steve, thank you very much. As we check in on Georgia and Ole Miss, David Green lofting it up there. Terrence Edwards has got it. Nifty play there. And on the board, it's 21-9 Georgia, just beginning the fourth quarter.
Bill earning his money today on a college football Saturday. Brian Kenny usually sits in that seat out in Las Vegas. The heavyweight championship fight tonight. Here's Kittner. Off play action, feeling the pressure from Doss, but able to get it away to Carey Davis. And what a tackle by Matt Wilhelm.
And for whatever reason, Carey Davis was not paying enough attention. He needed to stay with the way he was running. And the reason I say that, Steve, is he was so close to the first down, he just needed to lower his shoulder. For some reason, he slowed down, and that enabled Wilhelm to make the tackle. And now they're going to have a measurement when really I think it would have been a gimme. Now watch, just take off. Look at the angle. Just take off. Instead, he breaks a little bit, allows Wilhelm the opportunity to slip him. He drops down just outside the 34-yard line. I believe it's a first down, but it would have been close if he'd have just kept going.
Wilhelm last year against Illinois had 12 tackles, earning the Big Ten Conference Defensive Player of the Week honors. The chains. We're a half hour away from more great college football over on ABC. Most of you will see number 2 Miami host Syracuse. Other regional action will feature among the games Michigan against Wisconsin. And that'll certainly be a game of interest here and back in Champaign as well. Handoff to Rocky Harvey. Joe Cooper made the stop there.
And Ohio State needs to be careful here. They need to have their own 8 or 9 in the box here because Illinois can take some time off the clock. Now 8 minutes remaining. If they get a sustained drive, that puts that much more pressure on Krenzel. Let's also point this out too, Steve, with regards to Illinois. Even though they haven't had the ball much now, 4 straight times they've converted on 3rd down.
2nd down and 4. Kittner, quick drop and the throw. Walter Young went up to get it and then couldn't bring it back down. Derek Ross had the coverage that time on Walter Young. Michigan and Ohio State control their own destiny. That's why this is so important. However, if Illinois can win today and Michigan loses later on this afternoon, then the Illini would have a chance at home on Thursday to clinch the Big Ten championship against Northwestern. If that's the scenario, you would see it right here on ESPN at 1 Eastern on Thanksgiving. Handoff to Rocky Harvey. He fumbled. Football, who's got it? And Illinois able to maintain possession there, nearly your turning point.
Steve, we had not seen up to this point, I believe, the shotgun. We had not seen Kittner out of the shotgun. Here's Harvey, and he has both hands over the ball. That's the odd thing. Now he braces, about to come down. He does get stripped, but it comes right back to him.
So they don't turn it over. Today, we've had just 2 turnovers in the game, only 8 penalties. It's actually been a very well-played game.
And again, Steve, just as we pointed out, 5th straight time now they're going to convert on 3rd down.
Hey, this is Kittner's quarter right here. 7:25 to go in the 4th. Handoff to Carey Davis, slides out to the right, and just barely gets across midfield. Mike Collins made the stop.
Steve, I've been begging for this earlier, and I don't know if this is something that Turner wants to do. But take a look at the bootleg here if they were to run it one time. Go ahead and run the play. One time. So, look at all the red shirts. Yep. One time, if you were to run that bootleg, that would be a huge first down for Illini.
2nd and 11. Just across midfield. Here's Kittner. Gets some pressure. It's caught by Davis, who went up high. Joe Cooper made the stop. In the crowd is thinking there'd be a holding call, but we are set for an update. Here's Bill Pito.
Steve, thank you. Georgia and Ole Miss, we showed you a moment ago. Georgia scoring on offense. Now Eli Manning trying to bring Ole Miss back, and it's Georgia's defense. Jermaine Phillips, midfield, and gone. All the way back for a touchdown. Georgia in command, 28-9.
Here's your third down and 11. See if their streak of third down conversions can continue. Kittner pick up some of the pressure and complete to Brian Hodges. Not even close to what he needed for first down yardage. Joe Cooper wrapping him up nicely.
Steve, Mike Goss, the strong safety, came on a blitz, and that's the blitz read. The strong safety comes, the tight end goes to the out route, and you get him the ball. But as you pointed out, Cooper is right with him stride for stride. It's a short throw. They're not able to come up with the first down. Having said that, though, Steve, I would say this drive has been effective from this standpoint, and that is they've been able to take some time off the clock. Fitz might even consider letting the thing bleed, but he's done a great job of getting the ball inside the 20 today.
They'll let it bounce. Well, will be down.
Great effort.
Unbelievable. Going to be down at the 2-yard line.
And it's Abdullah is the guy who makes the play. How many times do you see that happen? The starting free safety hustles down and knocks the thing out of bounds. Great effort by number 7. He does a great job of getting behind the receiver, not being fooled by the fair catch, batting it in bounds. Poor field position for Ohio State. Great play by number 7.
It's already been a great afternoon of college football, and it's going to get even better. 5:23, nip and tuck the whole way. Our U.S. Army storyline. The big story going in, Steve Belisari being suspended for this game and maybe the next game and potentially a bowl game as well. And then the backup quarterbacks have come on, especially Craig Krenzel, who here is picked off. Just as I said, it's Ty Myers. Touchdown, Illinois.
Goodness. He just flat out didn't see him. You know what, Steve? There's a situation where the young quarterback is saying to himself, we'll fool them. Everybody in the stadium is waiting for him to hand off to Wells. And what a heads-up play on the part of number 27, Ty Myers, who just steps into the passing lane. He reads his eyes. He's looking at one spot. And how many times, though, Steve, have you seen a linebacker drop that interception? Instead, Myers is Johnny on the spot, and a gargantuan play for the Fighting Illini.
Here's Peter Christophilakos with the extra point, and he boots it through. And you know how special that is for Ty Myers, the native of Springfield, Ohio. Might have just buried the Buckeyes with 5:19 left here in Columbus. The Illini have a 34-22 lead. Ty Myers just scored that touchdown. He's no stranger to the end zone. In one high school game, he once scored 8 touchdowns. In one game in high school, he threw for 4 and ran for another 4 touchdowns. And here on the defensive side of the ball.
I wanted to point out quickly, I didn't get a chance to. If you notice, standing next to him was Terrell Washington. He's probably saying, thank you, thank you, thank you.
All of a sudden, that Washington play could be forgotten as Maurice Hall trying to run this kickback back to the 27-yard line. 5:09 to play here in the fourth.
The idea is to surprise the defense. What are they going to be thinking? I'm going to take a 3-step drop and throw a slant or an out. Instead, Myers anticipates. What a great job of coming off of his man, looking into the eyes of the quarterback, and making an absolutely huge play.
Todd, that is the first Ohio State turnover of the game. And it turns out to be what you would expect to be devastating now. The final run.
I know my son Tori's going to be excited because his favorite number happens to be 27. Myers wears number 27.
On first down and 10. Krenzel is dropped by Michael Bryan. Lafayette and Lehigh going there. That's outside the Big Ten, I believe. Sweet. Here's Bill Pito. Bill.
Steve meeting for the 137th time. That's the most matchups between any two schools anywhere. Jermaine Pugh here. And look at this. He's 5'4". But he's got some ability. Look at this. Can you get to him? 85 yards. And Lehigh up 28-6.
Bill, I know you would agree. He can do some things. Second down and 15. With Craig Krenzel now. Under all sorts of pressure, rolling to his right. And he'll throw it off the hands of Michael Jenkins.
Now you're probably at home saying to yourself, what happened to the offensive line that was protecting him so well? Well, now that Jonathan Wells is no longer a factor, and he has to fade back and throw, suddenly that affords the front seven of Illinois the opportunity to pin their ears back and go after it.
Today's game on ESPN is being seen live around the world by U.S. servicemen and women and their families through the facilities of the American Forces Radio and Television Service. We send our best wishes and regards to all of them.
Amen.
.419 away from Ohio State having the destiny taken out of their own hands. And that is a catch by Brandon Childress. His first catch of the afternoon. Tressel going up high, and Childress bringing it down.
Kind of a bad decision, too, on the part of Eugene Wilson there, going for the interception, because he misses the interception. And another 2 yards of grass, the receiver can turn upfield and make a play. You see right there, fortunately, that did not happen. But again, far be it from me to correct Eugene Wilson, who is having a tremendous year as a corner for the Illini. The king of PBUs, for goodness sake.
Had 2 interceptions against these Buckeyes in last season's game. Doing a good job of this. This is 4th and 8, and obviously going for it. Here's Tressel. Will throw down the middle, and it's tipped and knocked away, and it is Eugene Wilson there on the play.
Well, that goes to show. That just figures, doesn't it? And once again, yet another pass broken up by number 28.
If you're looking for the definition of passes broken up, that would be one of them.
I don't have to explain it to you. That's what it is right there. He's upset with himself that he didn't come up with the interception, of course, but the reality is they're better off for him not having intercepted it on a 4th down play, because the line of scrimmage then returns to the 29 of Ohio State.
Todd, what's interesting about Wilson and interceptions and returns, he said he always lays out for his interception, so he never gets any return yardage. He's got 9 career picks, only twice is he able to get any return yardage on the play. Here's Rocky Harvey up to the 25-yard line, and the clock is moving. 4 minutes to play. Matt Wilhelm made the stop. Coming up, Bill Pito and Rodney Gilmore, College Game Day Scoreboard show. That's coming up here on ESPN. Things will dramatically change now in the Big Ten. As I said, Ohio State, should they lose this game, they will have destiny taken away from them. And Illinois and all of Champaign will be watching on ABC. See what happens with Michigan later today. And if, in fact, Michigan loses, we will talk to you on Thanksgiving Thursday from Champaign, where Illinois would have a chance to win the Big Ten title outright. Again, we'll see on ESPN News post-game coverage of this one after the game. But right now, back to Bill.
All right, Steve, Kentucky and Tennessee continues to be a wild affair. 3rd quarter, Jared Lorenzen, Derek Abney breaks a 21-all tie. Wildcats up 28-21. Navy and Notre Dame all tied up at 10. Just over 2 minutes to go in quarter number 1.
All right, Bill, thanks very much. In Illinois' game notes, they have an interesting column that says Illinois by the numbers, and they have their passing rank and their sacks, how many times they've been on ESPN. Then they have this really long number, 1-217-333-3470. That's the number for the Illini ticket office. Ticket sales apparently for Thursday, the home finale, are going rather slow on Thanksgiving holiday, or I have to believe if they have a chance to win the Big Ten title at home on Thursday against Northwestern, they're going to sell a few more tickets. Rocky Harvey, the ball carrier there, and some extracurricular activities away from the play.
Steve, you have to wonder at this point, and I was thinking about this coming in when we were documenting the 3 comeback victories that Illinois had over the last 3 weeks, and that was this. So many things, there seemed to be omens or things that were going Illinois' way that would indicate that this was their kind of year. Remember when they played, the score is tied 35 against Wisconsin. Walter Young catches the ball. He gets stripped of the ball. Looks like a fumble. Lack of composure on the part of the wide receiver for Illinois, and Ron Turner can't be very pleased with that. But having said that, then the call goes their way. They score a touchdown, win the game. Then against Purdue, they're down 13-0. Tim Stratton attempts a one-handed catch. For all intents and purposes, it hits his hand, falls to the ground. Instead, it pops up. Jackson catches it, goes 82 yards for a touchdown. Then against Penn State, it's 21-7. They're down 21-7. Zach Mills gets hurt. And I'm not saying they wouldn't have won the game anyway, but certainly that had to help. And of course, this week, they go against a team without its starting quarterback.
3rd and 20. Kittner was hit hard in the backfield as he released. It's an incomplete pass. There is a flag down on the play. Holding the call against Illinois. Let's go down to Dave.
Well, guys, with 3:20 left in this one, and Illinois up by 12, it doesn't look like the guarantee will work out. We heard that this week from Ohio State linebacker Cortland Bullard. He showed how confident in the Buckeyes he was. He said, "This is our last home game. We will come out on top." His quotes, "I've got winning in my blood, and I know my teammates do too." I asked defensive coordinator Mark D'Antonio about it yesterday, guys, in our meetings. He said he wasn't bothered at all by the guarantee, saying he likes Bullard's confidence and intensity, really wants his players thinking all the time they're going to win. But the next applicable win situation looks like at Michigan next week.
Fitz was taken down as he punted it away. There is no flag. And Ohio State will get the football back at their own 9-yard line. And now trailing 34-22, 3:14 left. This will open the issue about Steve Fitz being our unsung hero.
Steve, with that punt now, he has had punts where the team has started at the 5, the 5, the 2, and now the 9. 4 of them inside the 10-yard line. And in addition to that, Steve, kicking off, he has had 3 touchbacks. His punts and kickoffs today have been outstanding for the Illini. Steve Fitz, also congratulations to him for going over 10,000 yards in punting for his career today.
On 1st down and 10. For Craig Krenzel and the Buckeye offense. It's a good block from Martin. Runs into some trouble now, runs out of some trouble. They try to turn the corner and is out of bounds at the 15-yard line. Coming up in about 8 minutes or so here on ESPN on Rivalry Week. Rivalry Saturday. It's 17th ranked Virginia Tech against Virginia. Both teams got back on the winning track last weekend. Will continue their winning ways today. Hokies scores 5 turnovers in their shutout at Temple. That was their 4th shutout of the season, a new Big East record. And we'll see what they can do against the Virginia offense today. 2nd down and 4 now upcoming. Understandable, some of the Ohio State players are hanging their heads at this point.
Dustin Fox has no reason to. He's got a lot of good football ahead of him.
2nd down and 4, and Krenzel again, the pocket collapsing around him, and Schumacher will bring him down at the 21. Should have the 1st down. It's going to be talked about, especially Ohio State look like they're going to come out on the losing end of this. It's worth revisiting the Steve Belisari situation. You know, if Ohio State wins this football game, it becomes less of an issue. But now the loss, you can only wonder if, in fact, he hadn't made a poor individual choice, Ohio State would have won this football game.
Well, that will be speculated, but of course one of the other things too, what ends up happening is when you have a decision like that, then it becomes a scapegoat for losing. Now everything that went wrong, as we see Abdullah not able to come up with the interception, everything that went wrong, you can blame on Belisari.
Sure. And the other decision to be made by Ohio State, and likely by head coach Jim Tressel, is we were told yesterday an indefinite suspension, which meant this game for sure. And really no one knew. I think they were buying themselves some time to try to make a decision as to how long it will be. There you can see number 8, of course, belongs to Steve Belisari, or used to belong to Steve Belisari, depending upon how long the suspension is. You wonder if, based on what has happened to Belisari, if he'd be welcomed back by his teammates in the Ohio State locker room. That'll be a difficult moment. I don't think Jonathan Wells evidently had a problem with it, but you wonder about some other players. Michael Jenkins on the receiving end. In fact, Tressel told us they got 100 guys on the team with a lot of probably different factions, different feelings. There are going to be some guys who say, hey, you're still one of our brothers, you're one of our teammates, we'll take him back in 2 seconds. I'm sure there'll be other players that were annoyed, and Tressel said there are probably some other players who don't have any feelings on the issue.
Well, ultimately, he's the one that decides. And as for what's going on in his mind, I have no idea.
Disappointing way he played his 2 best games in a row. Krenzel throws that one, and it is picked off. Ty Myers, his 2nd interception of the game, the last one for a touchdown. This one will just hand the ball back to the Fighting Illini.
And this was not dissimilar to the other one, and that is he just simply reads the eyes of the inexperienced quarterback. His responsibility is the flat and the hash hook range, but watch him slide back in. See, he's reading right there, comes in, gets his hands in it. Even, you know what, I got to tell you something. I'm impressed with Myers. Very rarely do you see linebackers make those kind of catches. Those are usually the ricochet off the pad jobs, but he's made 2 nice catches.
Off the turnover, handoff to Rocky Harvey. Again, the Illini without their top running back today, Antonio Harris, but so far, so good. Down to the field, Dave Ryan.
All right, Steve, thanks. We saw Ty Myers showing us his wrist tape, which has got 937 on it. It turns out that's the area code for Springfield, Ohio, rather, which is just 40 miles west of where we are here in Columbus. He grew up a big Buckeye fan. This is his first ever game in Ohio Stadium. Wanted to play for the Buckeyes, ended up with the Illini. First ever game here in Columbus, 2 interceptions, including the touchdown return.
And once again on the phone.
I think he was dialing that area code. The Illini, they're going to have a 6-game winning streak in the conference. It'll be their best since 1989. Actually won 12 straight in the Big Ten over parts of the 82, 83, and 84 seasons. And they're on a roll. They had the loss to Michigan and have not lost since. What a difference from a year ago. They were rolling early, the Illini were. The loss to Michigan went 2-5 the rest of the way. Totally different this season.
Well, let's give Ron Turner and his staff a lot of credit. They really put together a great program. Good combination this year, the team that they have with youth and experience. You can see the first 27 games, not so good since then. Very impressive.
Turner and the Illini, they were going with the respect theme or lack of. Are we buying into that, or is that just a rallying cry?
No, it's certainly a rallying cry early on. You know, obviously those numbers weren't what they were at the beginning of this season. And so again, when you think of big-time football, you don't necessarily, your mind doesn't necessarily wander to Champaign-Urbana. So give him credit for what he's done. And let's face it, this is the Big Ten. It's not like he did it, you know, against the Sisters Rapport. They put together some impressive wins this year.
10th in the BCS, you figure. Have to move up even higher. A win on the road in conference. Rocky Harvey, the ball carrier. Joe Cooper, another stop. And you feel for the seniors, certainly. With Ohio State on senior day playing their final game here. It look like they're going to come out on the wrong end.
Well, what Illinois is hoping for, obviously, is to win out, and as you point out, have Michigan be upset either by Wisconsin or Ohio State. And if that were to transpire, I'm guessing, I think it's a fairly educated guess, and that is that the Fiesta Bowl wants to duplicate what the Rose Bowl normally has, i.e. Pac-10 and Big Ten. And so a potential Oregon-Illinois matchup is there. But then again, it would be foolish to get into all the conceivable possibilities at this point of what might transpire over the next couple of weeks.
They'll just snap it and allow the clock to run down. Again, should Michigan lose later on today, we would have the Illinois Northwestern game for you on Thanksgiving Thursday at 1 Eastern, 12 local time in Champaign. And again, if that is the scenario, then Illinois would have a chance with a win to win the Big Ten title. And for Ohio State, obviously already bowl eligible, looking for more, and they get their toughest test of the season, always their toughest test of the season against Michigan, in which Ohio State coaches have been hired and fired based on that one game, or so they say here. Illinois, 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns will give them the 34-22 victory. Destiny taken out of the hands of the Buckeyes. Up next, College Game Day scoreboard. For post-game coverage, turn over to ESPN News. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For Todd Christensen, Dave Ryan, and our entire ESPN crew, I'm Steve Newby. Thanks for watching, everybody, today. For more on today's game, log on to ESPN.com, your home for college football on the internet. Have a great afternoon. We get set to send you back to Bill Pito and the College Game Day scoreboard.